on Sunday morning. Ain't got no time. And I said, oh. Oh, yeah. Where are we right now? Hey, there we are. Hey, we're live. This is it. This is how we do it, Montel. Welcome in. Cup of coffee for the working man out there, stone cold style. There ain't nothing better than that late afternoon cup of Joe, if you know where I'm going with that. Java. Okay, let's get down. Let's get after it. Hey, it's Brian Campbell. It's the BCX. All right, put that X up in the air. Yes, Death, with arms wide open, right? You know what I mean? Welcome to this place. I'll show you everything, and inevitably, eventually. This is the Campbell's Rambles. This is what we do, apparently, every single Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, where one middle-aged man speaks in long-ranging circles here on many topics, usually centered upon combat sports, 70s vinyl, 90s NBA, mental health, the new Kings of Tupelo doc on Netflix. Holy crap, right? All those things going on, all that, and then some. Tall, pale, handsome. Yeah, you're looking at him, right? It's a BCX. Hey, how good was that intro, right? How friggin' good was that? I hope you're doing well. Shout out one more time on that great piece of art to kick off this show. Mikey on the editing, Average Joe Romero, the art specialist on the illustrations, and how about my boys over there at Head Change in Nebraska, the jam band Head Change, Anthony Weller on lead guitar. Fantastic stuff right there. Welcome on in. This is like your local bar, right? 2-drink minimum. Smoke them if you got them. Rah, rah, if you know what I'm saying. We get down here. I answer your questions. You let me speak in ungodly amounts of long-windedness, and hopefully, we make something happen. We spread a little joy. We laugh. Maybe Sandine orders a lady of the night, right? Whatever they got to do over there on the Just Bleed radio with my boys, Lazy Bed, Danger Mouse. Shout out to those guys, okay? Yeah. Hey, Mouse, how you doing, brother? Shout out as well, okay, to Dixon Cider. That's where we'd all inevitably like to end up, right? Yeah, doesn't coffee give you the runs? No, apple juice gives me the runs. But thank you. Now we know each other way too intimately. And yes, as you're saying, Dave Sandine, I did wear this in honor of not only my French-Canadian heritage, shout out to Quebec, but also Mr. Joe Rogan, who's on his way to Moscow right now for UFC St. Petersburg or for whatever, Leningrad. Where are we going with this? I don't know. Hey, welcome on in. Hold me now, right? All right. You ever got something in your teeth? I mean, I am 6 feet from the edge, and I'm okay. That's okay. I should have read that. It's also true. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. How do we get that off the screen? There we go. So here's what's going to happen here. Luke Nocita's in the house, my man of the main card minute. We do, by the way. Lazy Bed's right. Mikey Momiles. I don't know if he's here right now, but he's always here on the ones and twos. Shout out to the man who always has my back. He's got my back like Diddy, right? like early Diddy. Or man, actually, no Diddy. Okay, no Diddy at all. All right. I do though like the way you work it. Yes, a lot of Canadian fans in here like Project Zeb. Let's go Canadian brothers. Toodles to the Russian Rogan. Yes, there we go. Joe, I don't know. I used to like Joe Rogan. I think a lot of people used to like Joe Rogan. Maybe you still do. You can like what you want here on the BCX, okay? We don't separate by race, creed, religion, or especially politics. So welcome on in. Really, really hope you guys are doing well. I just realized this blue not matching this blue at all, but it's not like I've showered in a couple days either. So, that's what working in your basement will do for you. Really, I think some people know that. But Two Changs is up in here where we're like, where's Michael Carson? Where's Dylan G? Right? All the regulars, right? Where's that guy, that international man of mystery? Alan W. Shout out to that fella right there. So it is Wednesday, March 26th of the 2025. I did get back from Vegas over the weekend, calling that PBC regular prime card. Hopefully some of you checked that out with that towering inferno, Sebastian Fundora. Good times, great oldies out there in Vegas, even though I was there for about 26 hours and took that turnaround red eye home. But any chance I get to work with the great Mauro Ranallo, a truly great person and great friend of mine, I'm all in on that. And obviously shout out to my other teammates there, Abner Morris, Jordan Plant. And also I think we're hearing some rumors that we could get some Caleb Plant back in the ring at the end of May on a PBC show in Vegas. So I'm fired up for that. Rumor mill also stating that Jermall Charlo could make his long awaited return on that card. So it could be fun. Reggie is here. He just opened the door. I've got to close it. So talk amongst yourselves for a second here. In fact, why don't we just, I'm rushing to close that door.
Jim, I got to tell you something. Are these guys rushing or are they just in a hurry?
All right, back in the chair. Let's say hi to the old Reginald, who is not really beloved around the house these days. I know he just had a near-death experience, but he's making a lot of people angry lately, except for me, because I'm the human that he picked. But he's in the house today. Zoe the cat also not far. So tip your waitresses. Hope you guys are holding it together in your own right wherever you are. We got a 69-degree day coming in Connecticut on Saturday. Okay, 69, dudes. So fired up for that one as well. Yeah, Reggie, they're talking about you, buddy. They're talking about you. All right, Reggie, you want the rake? You a big rake fan? I mean, is it normal to podcast and caress an animal at the same time? Because I'm trying to change the way this world is run. Okay, but that's what we got going on right there. Reggie, there it is. So let's catch up. Let's see what we're up to. Let's see. Thank you, Lord of the Pies. All right, hair pie. Thank you. I mean, I don't know if that joke holds up anymore. It's not 1985, but here, Reggie, take the poll. All right, there you go. All right. So, folks, it's Wednesday. We're coming off of UFC London. We got a fight night this weekend. We got a little bit of boxeo this weekend. Little Michaela Mayer, Sandy Ryan rematch over there in Top Rank Land. Hope you're fired up for that. Brian Norman Jr. doing that welterweight title bit in the co-main event. I think we've got a Tevin Farmer, what's the other guy's name? William Zepeda rematch. So that'll be interesting on DAZN there. Coming off of that big one championship event. So shout out to those guys. You see Chatri apologizing for those incendiary remarks he made about, wow, that was pretty wild, right? Okay, Lord of the Pie. Should we go buy up all the George Foreman grills around town at the garage sales? Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be a nice tribute to old Big George, who by the way, reportedly sold his likeness in the late 90s to that grill for 100-something million. The reports are that he has made 200 million on that grill in 30 years. Insane. And of course, a lot of us pro wrestling fans know the backstory on the fact that Hulk Hogan claims the same company left a voicemail for him, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. But George picked up that phone. He got that grill. Even I, who did not cook one time on the stove or oven in my first apartment, that's 5 years. That shows an extreme level of degeneracy, right, Reg? I did have a George Foreman grill, and I very often cooked what in them? Yeah, hot dogs. Okay, so that's who you're talking to right now. Yeah, I see what you're doing there behind that Arby's dumpster, right? There we go. Nosita's here. Well, the fantastic producer, director of Morning Combat, and the main card minute host. I've owned 2 George Foremans in his day. They are legit. I mean, it's easy to clown on them, but you got the elevated thing. It's rudimentary. It's hard to screw it up. You're definitely going to burn your hand, but I guess in theory that grease is going to leak down. But you guys like me, you take that grease cup and just pour it right back over the top because that's the best top. No, I'm kidding. Now, if it was pizza, I might, but that's another thing. All right. Lazy, but I still wish I could eat Hulkamania's Pasta Mania. Yeah, Hulk Hogan's Pasta Mania from the Mall of America. He really thought that was going to catch on, did old Terry. But like him dropping the N-word that time, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. All right. Hey, Hawaii's own Telvin Kipapa in the house. Okay. Not going to make him bare knuckle fight Daz this week. All right. But mahalo out to him and his people over there on the islands, though. Welcome, 50th state. We're looking at you. Very expensive place to live, I hear. Okay. And, Dixon saying what some of us were thinking back in the day, right? They wanted to marry Brooke Hogan when they were younger, and then they grew up. You know what I mean? But there we go. All right. So, hey, let's get into it. So, what do we got for updates here? MK's back Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, remote show. Should be fun. We'll fire you up. We'll get you ready for the weekend. I think Luke's got a big announcement this week. I don't want to screw the pooch, as it were. Okay, I do want to actually, right? Wow, yeah, no, but Luke's got some good stuff cooking up. So shout out to LT, shout out to my Canadian brethren here. First, it's like 10 a.m. Yeah, I always wonder, like, what time is it? It's 4 p.m. Eastern somewhere, right? Well, in my basement it is, but for all you, wherever you are, whether you're at the job, whether it's overnight, however you're tuning in, thank you. But I did want to shout out, yes, my French Canadian friend Marc-Andre Barriot. Thank you very much. We always have your back. There it is. All right, whoop, there it is. So I'm going to get to your questions closer to the top of the hour. Of course, the super chat will be open. You know the deal. You do it, we love it. You don't do it, we still love it. Okay. At the end of the day, this is a hangout. We're having fun. We're trying to spread goodwill. Reggie's already out of it. He already wants to leave. All right. If he could learn how to open doors the way that like the opposite way, I'd be a much happier owner. Well, give me a second here. Talk amongst yourselves and enjoy this Keith Thurman business. Heard Keith Thurman was going to be here. Sounded boring. Found the man. Still sounded boring. Yeah. There we go. Thank you to Keith Thurman right there, who's making a comeback. He's in the midst of a comeback. I mean, is that Tim Tszyu fight? If they get there more competitive now than what about a year ago? Certainly something that you're going to have to ask yourself. And hey, no spoilers on the Luke announcement, although DJ Serenity now might be close. I don't know if he's been shopping for suits lately at that Joseph A. Grossness. Okay, there it is. All right. I got 4 different drinks here, okay? We got some coffee. We got some of this. Remember last week Saul was like, nah, bro. I think it's a little I think the demise of this drink is a little overstated. All right, but that's another topic for another day. So, channel update on the BCX. Hey, I got a couple pretty good interviews out there. Check that ish out. Jaron Boots Ennis, who's setting the stage, of course, for that April 12th welterweight title unification, the Matchroom Boxing DAZN card in Atlantic City against Bob's old Lithuanian. I'm on to Staniosis. Should be good. Check out what Boots is up to. You got to check out my Edgar Berlanga chat. Not many people have yet. It's off the damn rails. So get in on that. He wants Canelo again. He wants to murder Caleb Plant. Some spoiler alerts in there. You can check it out. And as soon as we wrap with this, I will be catching up with Brandon Moreno ahead of UFC Mexico. So you can check that out later this week. And if you're interested, if you at any point in your life have enjoyed sticking that hand inside the box, then you can do that live at 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Rafe Buggs and I, we're going to look back. We're going to look ahead. We're going to talk Big George. We're going to play what does it look like? Matchup Mondays. We're going to have a good time. So check that out. Let's get into some actual combat sports topics that we can get into. All right. Speaking of Luke Thomas, let's talk about the end of his stick, if you will, right? You know what I mean? Because when that guy from Germany / Georgia / Spain comes out, so does Luke, if you know what I mean. Ilia Topuria, as Connor would say. Ilia Topuria, the former featherweight king, the man who's riding just this ridiculous streak of big-time wins, knockouts of Volk and Holloway. What is this guy on right now? So he calls a press conference to announce that he's got a new nickname, which translates essentially to like living legend. like, I don't mean to clown on this because that guy's great. In fact, I was texting back and forth with old LT, and he actually shared my sentiments. And I was like, look, you know what I want to see Ilia do? I want to see him fight again. I want to see him force the UFC to take an octagon to Spain. I want to see this guy move up to 55 like he said he would and challenge the top. What I don't necessarily want to see out of him right now. And it's not that he hasn't accomplished anything. He's freaking great. He's number 2 pound for pound on my list on CBS Sports for what that's worth. Okay. Yeah. You'll get a little touchy. You get a little Andre touchy feely if you put those two together in the same room. But this guy's starting to jump his own shark a bit, if that makes any kind of sense. It's one thing, as he did ahead of the Volk fight, to change his Twitter bio to say unbeaten new UFC champion. Look, it happened. So he gets last laugh on that. I thought it was a little pretentious. I thought it was, bad karma. It didn't matter because this guy's a badass and he's dialed in. Let's give Ilia Topuria, formerly El Matador, the respect, right? But I didn't love, and I was vocal about it, some of the reactive things since he's become the star that he is. The basically writing himself a thank you note and a love letter and congratulating himself that time that he did on social media. It's like, all right, dude, a little bit weird here. And this idea of mid-career, but really not even to the halfway point, it seems. I mean, maybe in reality he could be, but like it feels like we have so much more we want to see out of this guy. We're already doing the Kobe, let's change the numbers from 8 to 24 and start a new era of our career. I mean, I get it. He's moving up to lightweight. There's a big opportunities for him to take more big swings and prove his greatness. But we're going to change our name to translate it to essentially like the legend, the living legend, like water, weed, dune, here, Bappa. Okay. I mean, one day though, if Basti ends up hitting cleanup on the Yankees, one day Bappa will laugh last. All right. He would definitely will. But I don't know. I just felt the need to kind of come out and clown Topuria a bit. I mean, anybody, you guys feeling what I'm feeling? Is this too much? Is this a little bit pretentious, preposterous? I get trying to fire yourself up, but aren't there unofficial rules in life that even guys like Topuria should follow? Like, you don't give yourself a nickname. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. You don't give yourself a nickname. It's like, like you got to earn it. Just like you can't just buy a replica UFC championship and wear it around like a overzealous pro wrestling fan until you earn it. You don't get to see the bride until she walks down the aisle. Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm stuck in, old timers day. Maybe I'm 46 going on not technologically sound, which is potentially a possibility here. But, in my day, you waited for others to call you a living legend. In my day, you didn't do that mid-career, right? Hey, what do I know? I'm still, I guess in a weird way cheering for him. I guess, I want this. Like when somebody comes on the scene and causes as much mayhem as he has in a short time, you want to find out how great he is. That's why the fight to make UFC is Ilia versus Islam next, although it does not seem like the direction they're going. It does not seem like Makhachev wants it. But, I'm also not against trying to make Ilia settle in, earn it a little. There's certainly a hell of a lot of big names that he can welcome himself into the 155 with. There's a back and forth right now between him and Dubronx. And that fight is liquid sex. Okay. That fight is sex on a beach, actually, in a shot glass. Okay. Let's hear from Nocita. You don't get to be the king of Connecticut without earning it. You're damn right. Okay, you're damn right. You don't get to be called Long Island Luke until the host of your weird podcast names you that. All right, you don't see LIL walking around 5 years ago going, "Look at me." All right, look at me. In a main card minute. Ooh, right, you can't do that. Okay. Two Chang's in the house. Ilia seems so full of himself that it's going to be fun when he eventually loses. See, I'm not turning on him to that degree. But he keeps his BS up, and I'm close. Okay, I'm close. But that's Luke's boy. I liked, like I said, that Luke was like, yeah, I don't know about that either. And also shout out to that disgraced lawyer, my guy, Jed Meshew II, who can we read the tweet that he put out there? Sometimes Jed will hit you with that zinger. Sometimes he'll just nail it, right? I think I retweeted it too. What did Jed say? He said, yeah, so the nickname is La Leyenda, which translates to the legend. And Jed quote tweeted and said, some real try hard shit going on. This is the sort of thing that would get you stuffed in a locker when I was a kid. Hey, Jed, me hometown, a Sioux hometown, right? You know what I mean? You can get your ass kicked. You can get your ass kicked like that Russian exchange student did in 7th grade, showing up in Batman sneakers his first day when he moved to the States. And he did. I saw it. Okay. So you got to watch how you roll in these parts, Ilia, or something like that. Speaking of really weird sneakers, I've got a story. I got to show you something. All right. Let's kill time while I grab them here. Yeah, let's hear from Freddie Roach. Okay.
He can't handle your speed, son.
You know, remember when Luke was like, yo, BC, rate my shoes? Oh, boy, we got poster issues there. Let's turn that back. You know, and then Luke rolled out those dad bowling shoes that were like kind of pseudo Air Jordans, but really like not. But I get it. Luke's got wide feet. He's got toe spacers. He's got to do that. We at CBS Sports, where I'm gainfully and wonderfully employed, were offered at the turn of the new year a company gift, which is not abnormal. I have a bunch of fleeces, hoodies that say CBS Sports on them, hats. I got the whole thing. They offered us like 4 or 5 things. Dick's Insider's got some advice here. BC, you need some command strips. You know, I got so many holes in this wall. You should see the amount of holes in this office wall. Yeah, you're probably right. I should probably be on that. So here's the thing, though. In hindsight, I definitely should have got the winter parka that said CBS Sports on it, and it looked high quality. Like this looked real deal. But one of the options was CBS Sports sneakers, and there was no picture. I'm rolling the dice, but it's a free gift. So I'm like, you know, how many, you know, and you know, you forget this. When you're young, you got to buy new shoes, you know, every 9 months because you're wearing them out. Your feet are growing big. But when you're an old POS, you can keep lame old shoes. I still got my Gilbert Arenas New Orleans NBA All-Star 2008 shoes that have the Agent Zero sign on them. That's what I wear when I play hoops, right? I still got the 04 Adidas T-Max, the blue ones from the Orlando Magic. I just threw those away recently. So I ordered these. You got to tell me what you think here. Are we like, because I showed them to my kids and I'm like, kids, cool dad coming in here. All right. Cool. Hashtag cool dad alert, which is something that gets set often by me and everybody typically rolls their eyes. But I was basically like, wow, LT sliding in. LT on the point right here. Yeah. All right. There we go. I was like, yo, kids, what do you think about these? They're like, they go, those look like lame dad bowling shoes. What do you think? Okay. What do you think about these kicks right here? Okay. Oh, I mean, what dad in your neighborhood is rocking the Air Tiffany's, the Tiffany Network CBS Sports bowling shoes? You know what? They're all that my kids went with the fake Jordans call, and I get it. I'm 46 years old. I'm struggling to stay in some hip lane at the moment here. But you know what? I kind of like them. All right. I can see already that you guys don't, you know what I mean? I think that's the difference between my weird artsy brain and yours. I mean, look at this guy, Finn, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, they're too shiny now, Sandine, but could you imagine, waiting on the corner for a lady in these? You know what I'm saying? All right. There we go. What do you got, Nosita? Yeah, they do toe the line of bowling shoes, but I think they're hipper than LTs. In fact, I'm going to wear them to the studio in Manhattan on Monday, and we can have a real old guy versus old guy shoe off. Okay. All right. I mean, come on, guys. All right. That's a little too far. Right. Okay. You know, here's the thing. They did try 2 Changs. All right. They did try. They tried for us. They did. Okay. These are bowling shoes, aren't they? Wow. You think Michael Jordan would bowl in these? Probably. Okay. There we go. Thank you for playing right there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The British Knights, what were they called? Remember they had that diamond something technology in the early 90s, and British Knights thought they were going to join that elite group of sneakers, and then they really didn't. You know what I'm saying? All right. They're not Nike Dunks, they're Nike Dunks. Indeed. But I don't see any of you rocking CBS Sports Dad Bowling Jordan shoes, okay? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah. Hey, anybody want to acknowledge this guy while I finish up my coffee? Yeah, all right. Sandine speaking to my heart there. Sorry, wrong one. Diamond Cell Technology. Thank you. Sandine, you sound like an old POS just like me. All right. Let's hear from Louisville's finest. He's just gotten off the ladder. Nobody hangs out in the gutter like Saul A. You can Saul, thank you for supporting the show and thank you for clowning my aggressive dad kicks. But when we meet in person one day, okay, I'll be laughing last. Thank you very much. Saul, by the way, fantastic appearance on last week's BCX Ramble. Wow, what a guy. What a man. What shout out to his brother Manuel too. All right. Shout out Manny. That's what I'm talking about. Those shoes say I eat hot dogs cooked off of a lawnmower motor. Okay. Here we go. Here we go. We laugh now, but in 20 years, there'll be a sneakerhead who will pay huge money. I know. I was wondering, Lazy Bet, if I should just like put them in a box. Cause like once in a while, you'll find out some dude who has like a brand new 1983 Chevy Corsica with like 8 miles on it in his garage, all wrapped up and it's pristine. And then he rolls it out 30 years later. Maybe I'll be one of those guys with these Air Tiffany's. All right. Yeah, they would no Cita go well with the One Love hat, the smoke jumpsuit. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, enough of that BS. Let's keep it going here. Topic number 2 after Ilia Topuria, who, by the way, God, if they're not going to do Islam, can we get Oliveira or Sarukian like stat, please? Let Gaethje have the title shot. I'm good with that. And if Makhachev does want to move up, he earned it. He's the pound for pound king. He's 33. Let this guy cook. Let this guy try to surpass Khabib's legacy and become an all-time great. I'm all for it, okay? But you better defend that nickname, that living legend nickname, Ilia, okay? Let's go to topic number 2. The hell is I going to talk about here? Yeah. Let's talk about Cain Velasquez. I mean, it's not going to be a long conversation. Everybody else has been given their 2 cents, and it feels like the entire MMA world is basically like hashtag free Cain. And I get it. I do. I'm a dad. I remember those irrational fears when my kids were super small, or even now when they're 17. You can always imagine the worst and try to imagine how you would respond. And I'm also not a absolute badass like Cain, so his response is going to be a little bit different than mine. It's not lost on me that ultimately what Cain was trying to do to protect his family and get one back, that a lot of people in polite society would also do. And who knows what we would do in that spot. Let's establish that. Number 2, I get the political connections and the people that are upset for the state of California letting the alleged molester or whatever the situation was go free. Yeah, there's some issues definitely there too, not trying to dodge that. I also get the whole, hey, in large part, Cain's been a really good dude and, blah, blah, blah. And all these people can write, as they did a couple years ago, letters on his behalf. I get it. I love Cain. Do I want him to be in the can? No. He did ultimately get what is perceived to be the lightest sentence possible. The judge showing almost extreme leniency that not only is it a 5-year prison sentence, but the belief is that he's set up to basically serve 2 years because they're counting the 2+ years that he was either on house arrest or the previous time he served after initially getting arrested. So I get that. Let's hear from Lord of the Pies. He could have gotten 15 to 20. As far as I'm concerned, we go too easy on people who do wanton endangerment to the community. So that's obviously, where I was headed, not like it was a surprise. He also committed a very dangerous felony and shot somebody up and had a high-speed car chase and put the lives potentially of so many others in danger, which is not cool, which is a no-no. So I think in light of him getting literally as soft a sentence as he possibly could, or at least, you know, those with the knowledge of the law are basically echoing that. I think in all sincerity, he should be happy that this is all he did get. So I don't know if I necessarily want to see hashtag free Cain. I don't know if I would necessarily want to see this turned into some political argument or everyone saying, well, hey, it should be about 5 minutes before Dana calls Trump and they just pardon him and Hunter Biden's corpse anyway, right? Like, you know, yeah, right. But like, you know, what he did, even in light of the situation, which is gut wrenching, right? But what he did is still reckless, illegal, a lot of things. So I'm torn on that, right? But at the same time, at the end of the day, like, he probably should have got 10 years, to be fair, right? Not that I want that for him, you know? So he riddled a car with multiple people full of bullets, didn't even hit the guy he was shooting for. He's a thug. I'm not going to go that he's a thug length, but I think you understand what I'm ultimately trying to say. I mean, I'm trying NBJFC 89 to be that adult in the room, that, you know, immature adult largely, but that adult in the room. Again, I'll echo. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I don't know what you watching, listening would have done in that situation. Luckily, I've never been in that type of situation where somebody I loved was harmed so aggressively that I, you know, was blinded by that and acted out. I mean, I can think of times, though, you know, really extreme breakups or certain situations where you do have those periods where you kind of just lose your mind for a short stretch and you're, I guess, happy afterwards that you didn't do something crazy. So again, I understand it, but you know, I don't think we should do this whole free Cain bit. He's going to serve his time and he's going to be back with his family. And that's, I think, ultimately what we want at this. So, yeah. Let's hear from Leaf, the shameless commenter. I paused, so I'm behind, but network TV shoes as well. That's why I had to order them. I had to find out. You know what I mean? It's like when you ever go to like a website like Pro Wrestling Tees, for example, and you're like, you know, I could get the shirt I really want. That's like $35 and it's awesome. But, you know, I'm not even comfortable in 2025 paying $35 for a shirt, even though I'm sure a lot of you paid that for MK shirts. And thank you, by the way. But they always have, well, hey, for $20, you can get mystery tea, you know, and you're like, oh, you know, do I do that? Do I do that? Like, you know, I could end up with like a, you know, I could end up with like a really weird Sasha Banks shirt or something I don't want, but, you know, no, you know, this is what that was, you know. I mean, I knew there was going to be branding on it. I had to find out. There's going to be a giant eye on the side. I had to find out at the end of the day, but there we go. All right. Lord of the Pie says, I don't think Cain was blinded. I think he was very calculated with what he did in the moment. He tracked them down as they're leaving the jail. Okay. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I haven't, you know, studied this particular situation to the extreme. You know what I'm saying? I did, by the way, the Gabby Petito thing on that Netflix dog. Oh my God. I think we talked about that already. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Laundry, you got some explaining to do, right? But yeah, so I think some of you are in line with what I'm saying. And I get there's always going to be a subset of the population that's like, I don't care. I don't care about the laws. You mess with me on that level, you're going to get the horns. And I also understand that. I grew up in a town where I always assumed that was the default, right? It's sort of what it is. Okay. All right. People like this will end up in prison. All right. I'm not trying to think that far ahead. Okay. I hope Cain has learned from this. And obviously I don't wish what happened to him and his child on anyone, but let's put that conversation. Okay, what does Nosita got for me? I want to talk to Samson, right? Fly me to the moon like that B. Alice Cramden. Because it's hard being boop and gifted. I guess I don't have to bleep out black, right? It's hard being black and gifted. Not that I'd know about that. I mean, Sean Strickland's tweeting about how much he wishes he was African-American. So am I really going to tell that story? What is going on in this world? Anyway, final topic, or maybe 3 of 4 topic. Topic number 3. UFC apathy. I'm a little bit surprised, even though I have been, you know, the band leader standing on the corner with the billboard saying, not that I hate the UFC, not that I hate Dana and TKO, but like, This ain't the UFC I fell in love with. This ain't the UFC of 5 years ago. I'm not going to rehash my rant. You know, my issues at the moment of a declining, watered down product with bosses that are just like, how many more cents can we wring out of this old rag? How many more fight night main events that don't even belong on the card are we going to put out with a crap card below it? So I understand if you're going to tune into MK, you may hear BC and LT referencing that. I guess I was surprised this week that there seemed to be a lot of, I don't know if it's the result of MMA media groupthink of those who have had the guts to be like, yeah, it's kind of not as fun as it used to be to make some statements. But I did see in a couple days consecutively a few things that kind of feed into this topic altogether. One of them was that piece that I retweeted yesterday that ran in GQ that was basically a guest writer, a longtime UFC fan going back to the early, singular digit barbaric days, who basically is just at a point where I think a lot of UFC fans are, that, the toxicity in the sport, the fact that the bullies have won, so to speak, he's just sort of at the point where it's like, there's no shelter in this anymore. I think I'm done with it, and even though his angle seemed to be almost 75% fueled by politics, and the writer basically said, look, I'm a left-leaning guy, and I loved mixed martial arts from its origin days because it was anti-politics. It was the, like for anybody's favorite getaway passion, it can be the escape from the daily life. To see a major publication put that out, I thought that was interesting, and I don't necessarily look at it, even though people call me, it's funny, people call me all the time, maybe because I'm linked with Luke, but they're, always I hear snowflake, soy, left-leaning POA. I mean, all the insults, even though I'm not even on the left at all. But as the years go by, I'm in the middle, because it typically both sides have sucked for a long time, and it's just ridiculous, the state of politics today. But I can certainly agree on I don't care what politics you're pushing. Can we not push it as heavy as we are? Can we not purposely breed and feed this melting pot of toxicity, welcoming in the Tate bros, like all that stuff that we've talked about ad nauseum? It was interesting to see that get to that level, just as it was interesting to see, I don't have the guy's name in front of me, but I think a lot of you people saw the reports, the news yesterday from, the typical outlets, the junkies, the fightings, that said that fella, the Glory kickboxing champion, the guy who's the last person to beat, Poatan in kickboxing, Alex Pereira, who had made his debut in the Dana White Contender Series and won and looked good. And we're like, oh, wow, this is the Poatan story all over again. Where's Chuck Mindenhall to remind us that it's not Izzy's story? This is sort of that situation all over again. And this guy came out with a fantastic quote. Let me bring it up here. Let me get there. Okay. All right. So the guy's name, you probably all know because you're hardcores, right? Artem Vakhitov, last man to defeat Poatan in kickboxing. He explained why he turned down his UFC contract after winning on the Dana White Contender Series and instead stayed with Glory, and he'll fight Rico Verhoeven for the Glory heavyweight title. It was, quote, obviously, I was delighted to win my fight on the Dana White Contender Series and get offered a contract. It was cool that Alex Poatan was there. Also, it felt like the trilogy fight was very close between him and Pereira, just a win or two away. But under the UFC's protocols, they were only able to offer me the standard contract given to all Dana White Contender signees. My team tried to negotiate, but the UFC's rules left no room for adjustments. I respect their structure, but here's the big quote. But I am a prize fighter and I have a family to support. Joining the UFC would have been an incredible opportunity, but the financial terms didn't make sense for me on the face of other offers, which were also coming in. So we had to politely decline. That was via Damon Martin, who relayed those quotes there. So this is interesting because it falls in line, of course, with this trend of UFC not going out of their way to aggressively get, the international free agents, not the small young guys with 4 fights who are going to be fed through the wood chipper of the Dana White Contender Series, and 60% of them are going to lose their first 3 UFC fights and be back there, but maybe a couple guys will squeak through, get some big finishes, but inevitably you're going to get a lot of fight night cards filled with guys with no Wikipedia pages whose growth is a little bit stunted. And oh, by the way, they'll be starting their career most likely making 12-12. The fact that you see a guy who's like, that's not me. Like, I'll do your Dana White Contender Series entry because that's the system now. But you can't sign me to that BS crap. I'm an accomplished fighter in my own right. The fact that they're willing to do that, the fact that they didn't get Paul Hughes, that they didn't get Cedric Doumbé, the fact that they're turning down so many of these big guys, seemingly not from the standpoint of, we don't need you, when you're ready, come knock on our door and we'll give you a low ball offer. Just basically like, yeah, our model is we don't pay for that. Sorry. So if you want to be great, there's the path, there's the door, but it'll be 12-12 for you too. Now, I don't know if that's actually what is being offered, and I'm basically being theatrical here, but like, it's starting to bubble over. It's not just LTBC and a couple people who are like, yeah, I kind of am getting a little sick of the direction things are going either. It is, as this gentleman would say, oh, that's somebody else's conversation. Remember, there's there's a lot of conversations going, one in my head, one in my mouth, one in this chat room. UFC are so tight-fisted. Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's weird. It's just so weird to see this when it's year after year financial growth. Top Dog, thank you. First, what they're waiting for Rebellious Despaigne to learn how to grapple so he can become a superstar. Indeed. I wanted to thank the Top Dog 101 for supporting the chat. BC, just want to say thanks for being a real one. I mean, I'm trying to tell the truth the best I can without completely sacrificing the opportunity for future jobs. But, I also have a responsibility to myself as a journalist, to the audience, to my role at CBS Sports, to my role on Morning Combat, to draw a line in the sand and say, for me, for my opinion. And that's why you're tuning in to hear my opinion, apparently, unless you just like the way I look in this anti-Rogan hoodie. It's so disappointing to see, because it's no longer, I mean, we're not there yet. We're not even close to there yet. Where's there? What I'm about to say. We're not even close to the point where we can say the UFC is no longer the major leagues of MMA. I'm not trying to imply that. But they just have it's not even eye off the ball. They just don't care. Their priority is expansion, growth, pay off their investors and their board of directors, and right? And eventually there's a price to pay for that. I guess last week in London, we saw the beginning of that. Finally, a market that was like, yeah, we're not paying that. Not for this card. So you did see an unnatural level of gaps in the crowd for a fight card that's like a plus fight night, right? I guess I'm surprised that it is catching up. It is catching up, man. It's catching up to them. And I hope it does. I mean, I still think the best thing that can happen to us, I'm not speaking as a journalist right now, I'm speaking as BC the fan. I do believe the best thing that can happen to the MMA fans who care, not the ones who are like, I identify with this brand and this way of living, so I don't care who they put out, because I'm still tuning into the main card minute to bet on every single fight. And shout out to that, Lucida, okay? I'm talking to the fan that cares, right? They don't care about you. They don't care about you. And I guess they're okay and they're fine that we're just going to keep churning groups of fans that came in, whether it was because of the pandemic or because of a favorite fighter that won them over or whatever, and we're just going to push them out and bring in the new batch of 18 to 24-year-olds who fell into this in college and were like, oh my God, this is awesome. And by the way, it is awesome, but it's not awesome at these prices. And if they continue down this road, it's not going to be anymore the undisputed major leagues of mixed martial arts. They have a monopolized grip that is insane. It is the perfect time right now for a competitor to come in. But as Luke Thomas always waxes poetic for so long, the monopoly has made it so difficult to swim and survive. And like, look at PFL, the one that had the chance the one that had the opportunity to be a difference maker, to be a disruptor in this era of low fighter pay and draconian contracts. And hey, let's mix it up and do something different and cool. Maybe Don and Pete have different ideas of what's different and cool. They want to find the smartest cage they can find and roll out unnecessary tournaments and unnecessary belts. But considering all this stuff is happening under the UFC's nose and they're like okay with it because the financial bottom line is all that matters, it would be the perfect time for PFL to get their shit together. But they don't have it, Jan Pole. And you know that. I mean, they may have had a chance. And I don't mean, when I say chance, you have to understand, I don't ever mean chance to go head to head and eclipse UFC for 83 weeks like this is, the Monday Night Wars of pro wrestling in the late 90s. I just mean carve out your own identity to the level that UFC fans are going, you know what, man, I still love my UFC, but I really love what's going on over there. I mean, for this company to bring in these big-ish names from Bellator and then go, yeah, well, they make too much money, so we'll just put you out in Siberia. I mean, Corey Anderson had to go on, and I like OT Corey Anderson. Shout out to Corey Anderson. He had to go on Twitter again today and be like, yeah, haven't fought in a year and 3 months, had a bunch of fights fall apart. What's going on? Notice that guy's not in the million for a $500,000 tournament, and I don't think he should, by the way. There's not even a title at the end of it. Like, it's a meat grinder that leads nowhere. So it sucks that they don't have their ish together, because this could be the moment where they could become a soft Strike Force. And I say soft because like Strike Force had certain things going for it. The Showtime contract, the ability to put fights on CBS, the video game, Fedor, Overeem, like they had things going for it that PFL doesn't. But it's not like PFL's got nothing going for it. They got an ESPN contract. They got Francis Ngannou. We thought they had Jake Paul, right? I guess he's just an ambassador to them. But nobody else can get their shit together, and it's almost fueling the UFC's ability to just go, well, yeah, sorry, ex-Poetan Victor. Unless you're willing to fight for 25 large, you ain't fighting with us. And that's where we're at, okay? That is where we are at. That's why TKO boxing scares me. And I think it should scare a lot of people in the boxing industry. Because it's monopoly upon monopoly upon monopoly. But like, even with the monopolistic control, even with the toxicity and the ridiculous level of politics in your face and power slap in your face and everything in your face, I really don't think we'd be complaining about that stuff that much if we got the matchmaking we were used to. And I love when people are like, well, BC, you talk a big game, but here's a group of fight night cards from 10 to 15 years ago, and they suck too. Fight night cards are never always perfect. But somebody had a great tweet. Forgot who it was. They've stacked together the last 10 fight night cards before the sale in 2016 from the Fertitas to WME, which became, I guess, Endeavor, or was WME Endeavor. I don't know, whatever. You know what they are. And I get that was heightened times. The Fertitas were rolling out the best possible product they could for the sale. It's why 2015 into 16 was the greatest time to be an MMA fan or journalist ever. But even with that said, right? So what we got during that stretch, well, first there was a gluttony of stars. Lesnar, Conor, and Ronda still lingering. GSP, Silva still, there's a gluttony of stars. Maybe not GSP, he was retired at that point. I guess he came back a year or two later. But, Jones, a gluttony of stars. And they loaded things up abnormally. They put those 3 fight cards during UFC 200 week, blah, blah, blah. But just look at those 10 main events leading up to that. It's just all killer and no filler. So it's just interesting that the apathy's, it's rising. And I don't know how far it would actually have to go. The only way they're going to change outside of I don't think I even finished my point earlier. I do that a lot. I set up these great points and I lose myself along the way. The point I was trying to make 4 points ago. Okay. Come stay with me. Stay with me here. Yeah, now I just lost that point too. I guess what you get what I'm trying to say at the end of the day. I think I'm running in circles. I'm screaming at the wind. Okay, there we go. That's BC for you. Oh, that sweet tropical taste, right? Oh yeah, just vitamins sliding down my veins. Yeah, I mean it happens. It happens. Okay, you get an emotional old man talking in circles. He's going to repeat a lot of the same things. All right. There we go. There we go. Final topic. I had great points. I really did. I was lining them up. They were in the holster. We were ready to go. But it is ultimately the same points you hear every time, probably. Okay, probably. All right. Yeah, please speak about it. I mean, it is, as Lazy Ben would say, the lubricant of our lives. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Let's hear from Mora 503. BC cries out for thunder, but it's down to one last breath. True story time. Walked into my son Isaac's room 2 nights ago. Now he's a really good music fan. I took him to a My Morning Jacket concert 2 years ago, and at the time of his life, great outdoor show, New Haven. He rocks. He likes to rock. But I don't, I like a good dad, pitch him occasionally a song or a band, but he's got a firm grip of what he likes. So I just kind of monitor and go, yeah, man, yeah. I walk in, he's got one last breath of Queen from Trinidad, and I'm like, dude, we never even had this talk. There was never a transition, a handoff. The baton was never passed on the relay. I'm so proud of you. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah. All right. All right. Octopus. That's a personal question. Okay, that is a personal question. Dixon Sider, have you taught him to rock out with his with his clock out? Yes. What are we Flavor Flav here? Yes. There we go. Okay. Maybe to some degree, but we had a nice. All right. I can't talk about that stuff publicly. Thank you. All right. I doubt it. He likes Mumford and Sons, Imagine Dragons, but can go a little bit harder at times. Loves Kings of Leon too, which is pretty awesome. Gets down with Pearl Jam, so he's cooking. I'll let him cook a little bit. All right, there we go. Man, I really had a great UFC point, and you probably have only heard it from me like 2 times before. It was that good of a repetitive point, but again, you get the point. All right. Final piece, and then I'm going to just roll out the dance floor to you guys like the movie Footloose. You know what I mean? Kick off your Sunday shoes. All right. Yeah. I mean, when did it stop being cool to be a Pearl Jam fan? I don't think it ever stopped. Right. No, Cena, tell me about it. Tell me about that ish. All right. Lazy Bed, BC, do you have a moped to drive your sons to the 7-Eleven for hot dogs and Slurpees? No. That would probably be the closest thing I could do to echo the coolness of my dad, because my dad was a fireman, so he had a alternating schedule. So there'd be a lot of times like summertime days, mom at work and dad's home, and he's like, let's get on the bike. And you didn't even have to have the conversation. You knew you were going to 7-Eleven. You knew you were getting a hot dog, a large Slurpee, and like a sour cream and onion bag, and then sit under the tree outside. That is the most wholesome / amazing / white trash upbringing I could have possibly had. And I'm here for it, except for my liver. Not here for it, but there we go. Lord of the Pies. So that's that song. What's their song? I don't even want to say the chorus out loud, because it'll be like that trick I used to play on my sister and go on her voicemail and be like, "It's Ben," or be like, "Hey sis, don't discard me," and then just hang up. So she has that, but that's my wife's favorite song ever. So every time it comes on the car radio, she jacks it up and we're all like, I can't do it anymore. There we go. What's going on? There it is. All right. There it is. All right. Finally, real quick. I didn't think I'd be here to say this. I got to give a shout out to Jake Paul and Most Valuable Promotions. They had a really good signing last week in undisputed 130 champion Alicia Baumgardner, who one of the best pound for pound in the world. And then today they came out with 4 more signings of some top female fighters. Some of them prospects, one of them Ramla Ali, who was one of the 2023 Time People of the Year, and the big one is Dina Thorsland, who is a unbeaten unified bantamweight champion and is BoxRec's #1 female pound for pound fighter. this is a good lane for them to almost corner the market in a lot of ways on women's boxing. I mean, they don't have Katie Taylor, but they've got Amanda Serrano to make huge fights with her, and they're going to have that third one on Netflix at MSG in July, and that's obviously not nothing at all. And they don't have Clarissa Shields, and obviously, like Michaela Mayer's fighting this weekend. You know, we're in the renaissance period of women's boxing. But they're starting to become a safe home for the type of female fighters that Amanda Serrano was 5 years ago. Hall of Fame resume, but, you know, making no money on low-level platforms. I got to give them credit for saying, okay, that's an area that means a lot to them. It looks great, obviously, to be able to say, look at what we did here, but they do seem to care. I interviewed Nikisa Badarian. I've got two stories. One of them came out today, kind of looking at their focus on why they're making a big run at women's boxing. I'm going to have a juicier one tomorrow on where that promotion is going to fit in this new boxing landscape, where it's TKO in Turkey, and it's all the old guard trying to scramble and find their, you know, their future lane now that TKO and Turkey have come out so aggressively and been like, yeah, we're taking over the sport. We're going to crush everybody else. And I think a lot of us almost overlook at times, like, well, what's MVP's role in this? Because we've long thought of MVP as just either Jake's promotion to fight, you know, fellow YouTubers or MMA guys, or, hey, that's that promotion that's doing real good with Amanda Serrano. And, you know, they have Shadeza Green, who's a champion now. They've got a few others. There's rumblings out there that MVP's putting together a lot of potential money to make a big run, to try to almost in some ways, not that it really is the rest of boxing against the machine TKO, because we don't really know how quickly or aggressively Turkey and TKO will take over, or if it will be the end of the world or the evil empire. But in some weird way, I do think Jake and MVP have the potential in short order to kind of be this us against them role. If they can make some big free agent signings, if they can put some things together, you know, it's something my CBS Sports colleague, Brent Brookhouse, said about 6 months ago. And I think we kind of laughed at him internally. He was like, what if Jake Paul ends up being the hero we need in boxing? He does, like, you know, I don't always love Jake Paul. I really hated that Mike Tyson fight, but he does seem to be pushing against the power in the industry, right? Being a dissenter of Dana, an annoyance of Dana, pushing the fighter pay thing. I think he's done really well for the fighters under his promotion. And, you know, I mean, you can talk differently about him as a fighter. Now he's making aggressive call outs to like Anthony Joshua. And you're like, is he trying to cash himself out? Is this some promotional play? I'm not really sure about that. But if they're mounting up to make a run, they got Netflix on line one, right? They've got like, obviously you can't F with Jake's ability to make really big events that people care about, even if caring about it means you're kind of going against some of the traditions of boxing, which was ultimately the Mike Tyson fight. So I got to give them credit. They are poised. There's some deep rumors about what they might do. And it's very interesting. So I got to chat with Nikisa about that. You can check that out in print tomorrow on CBS Sports. All right. That's enough of me rambling, even though I had some great UFC points, man. I should have wrote them down. They were so good. Real quick on this 9:15 a.m. Boxing is desperate for a savior. First Turkey and now Jake. Really? No, I'm not trying to say Jake is the savior. I'm trying to say a few things, but we'll pause that conversation for now. All right. I'm just saying Jake's powerful, and if they can put a lot of money together and maybe link up with some of the old guard that's still here in boxing, and I think Jake's kind of head of the game in some ways in terms of, you know, already being on Netflix and already making big moves. We'll see what happens. There you go. Let's open up the floor to you guys. It's 5:00 Eastern time. Let's hear from you. Let's hear what's on your mind. All right. Matthew Garrett, thank you for your support of this here Ramblin' Chat. How about that tat? MK Hall of Fame. Are you referencing, Matthew, this lost fan sub or have you seen this shit video you keep sending in. I talked to Mikey. I think if you've never seen it, it's because it got chopped due to decency. And I know we're rather indecent as it is on Mondays, but I'm trying to justify that or walk that tightrope. I don't necessarily know exactly what tat you're referencing, but I'll check the DMs and try to figure this out. Thank you. All right. Let's hear from 9:15 a.m. Is Samson Lukowitz, the promoter, works with PBC, is he kind of messing things up for David Benavidez? No, I don't think so. I get the point of what you're asking here because Samson has been very outspoken of late, basically saying, look, I don't want to send these fighters to Saudi, for these big fights. Like, they asked him after Saturday's Fundora card, Marcos Viegas, as Luke would say, of Fight Hub, was like, what if, this Bivol Benavidez fight, which has been ordered by one of the sanctioning bodies, what if it does go to purse bid? And what if the other side wins it, or are you going to go and send your guy to Saudi Arabia? And I think Samson took a pretty hard stance. He almost drew a line in the sand and was like, we don't want to send our guys out there. We want to do, our home is Las Vegas. Our home is the United States. We want to do these fights there. I think he specifically said, if Turkey and company want to come to the States, be a part of this event, but it's going to be a PBC event in the States, then that's more than fine. And an interesting note in there of that conversation was they said, okay, well, what happens if it does go to purse bid? Aren't you risking that they will outbid you, meaning Turkey and I guess TKO, although they're not, they haven't put all that together yet. And Samson kind of was like, you think PBC's dead? You think PBC doesn't have the money? We have the money if we need it. We aren't dead. We're just starting. And it was very sort of like fueled by something we don't know. No, I don't know. Right. I'm just a journalist and announcer looking for facts. But I think ultimately I respect how PBC has walked this line. They have sent a few fighters over to the other side for big paydays. Rolly's going to get one against Ryan Garcia on this fight coming up on May 2nd. We saw Adamas go over there, but he kind of got screwed against Shiraz. They've sent over Pitbull Cruz in the past. Like a couple of fighters have made the jump, but Al Heyman is the last major promoter that hasn't gone all in, hasn't bent over and said, here's our roster of fighters. Do what you will. Just make sure the check clears, right? So I think that's their way of saying, look, we're in a fight. We're in this to fight. We're in this to win. We're in this to save our promotion. We're in this to do it our way. If you want to work with us and come over here, that's fine. But we are not in a position to just fall in line with everybody else because we have people who can actually sell in the States. And I think a lot of this is tied and connected to the idea that Canelo, who was with PBC for that short stretch, is such a huge draw in the States that him going to Saudi for 3 of his next 4 fights, him having this almost pointless fight with William Skull May 3rd. I mean, the point is to make him the undisputed champion again. But, Cinco de Mayo weekend, he's fighting in Saudi, probably in front of a couple thousand people against a guy no one's ever heard of. Like, this is Samson and PBC's way of being like, we still have Tank, Benavidez, Pitbull, Caleb Plant. We've still got some big names and we draw here. So I don't think he is messing things up for Benavidez. I also think, I don't know the true conversations behind closed doors between Benavidez, his advisors, Samson, Al Heyman, but I think there has been a history that if PBC fighters push Al or the powers that be and say, no, this is the direction I want to go, Al's fighter first at the end of the day. He's always been fighter first. When Danny Jacobs got that offer to leave PBC and go to HBO and, knowing he's going to have a shot at Canelo and Triple G, both guys he would eventually fight, the Canelo fight, obviously on DAZN by that time that it happened, he allowed that. It's happened before. So I feel like there's also some trepidation from some of the big American stars who haven't gone over there yet. I heard that Benavidez's visit out there for the Bivol Beterbiev rematch didn't go as planned or didn't go great. I don't know what that means in particular in specifics to the negotiation, but I do, separate from my announcing role with the PBC, respect that they're just not like, here, take everything we've got. Let's be a part of this cash-in system too. When Turkey's already saying, look, pretty soon it's going to be me and Dana and nobody else, and we're going to crush you. So it's like the rules have changed. The game has changed. So no, I think Sam's, even though it is fueling more segregation in boxing, which is certainly not what everybody wants, I also don't think everyone in boxing that's been in there for decades, built up their business, should necessarily be forced to just be like, all right, we'll play here, do it, because it's a different system than we've ever seen. Turkey's taking control of these promotions more or less. I mean, Top Rank's been at arm's length. They give them better BF. They give them Fury. They give them some big names. But Top Rank's not rolling out, Abdullah Mason, Keyshawn Davis here. Like, they're keeping some things in close. And I respect that, because we don't actually know how long Saudi's going to be in the game. We don't actually know in the long run if everything's on the up and up and is healthy and safe and good. So far, we got really great fights. I'm not going to crap on the last year and a half of what Turkey's delivered overall. Top billing. Yes, we've gotten some great stuff. It's shot in the arm for the sport. But Benavidez is not saying, I won't fight Bivol or Better BF because they're on that side. They're just saying, look, like, we don't see the gain in going to fight over there in front of nobody when our business is here. We can sell out big arenas. We can make big money on pay-per-view when your pay-per-views are tanking, or you don't, because they're not putting in the crazy money to promote it on an aggressive level. Yeah, they'll put millions into this big commercial, and that's cool, I guess, but that's my take on it. A lot's happening right now, and it's going to change the way the future is, but there's still a lot that we don't know. And I think there's been just as many warning signs with Turkey and now joining them with TKO as there's been, hey man, at least we're getting the fights. This is great. What's the long term on there? So you're going to see a lot of very key, strategic, interesting decisions. But to echo one more time on that Jake point, and again, I've never been a massive Jake super fan or Most Valuable Promotion super fan. I mean, I ripped them as I think they deserved for that Tyson fight, for the way it played out, for a lot of things on that. Just at the same time as I'm praising them for what they did with Taylor Serrano too. But I will say this, after talking to Nikisa and looking at things, with a keen eye, they are also fighter first. And that is a part of Al Heyman's legacy that has, I think, allowed him and the PBC to stand out. They haven't always made the perfect decisions for the fans. There's been some tough stretches along the way, but the fighters are always friggin' happy. And look at what goes on the MMA side, where most of where so many of them are unhappy, save for that 1% that have, been company men, won big fights, got the pay-per-view points, got on that level. So that's what I'm looking at with Jake. That's what I'm looking at with PBC right now. They're also looking out for their fighters in that regard. They don't want to necessarily just toss them out there and say, yeah, whatever. All right, I'm talking in circles. There you go. Jordan, keep up the good. You keep up the good work, Air Jordan. All right, thank you very much. Lord of the Pies, Aaron Pico could have very easily been on the regional scene and got to 13-0. Maybe you're having your own conversation and I just walked in on it. Very possible. All right, let's get back to some super chats here. Oh, here's a non-super chat from Lazy Bit. How does Team Abu Dhabi and the GFL bounce back from the loss of their coach? I don't necessarily know what you're referencing here, Lazy Bet. Am I not deep enough into what do you I don't know. I don't know what you're saying here. Am I ignorant to this? It's possible. It's very possible. All right, let's go to J Ray B02. Jay, thank you. J Ray, thank you for your support of this channel. BC, who is more underrated? Ooh, this is a good one. Living Colors, Vernon Reid, the fantastic guitarist, or Living Colors lead singer, Corey Glover? Or is the group as a whole just underrated, especially their live performances? So, hold that thought for 1 second, Jay Raybo. All right. Cain is the coach. Cain is the coach of GFL. I got it. I think, yeah, okay, I got it now. Yeah, how will GFL bounce back without Cain as the coach? Let's let GFL get one card off first, okay? But I get the point now. Thank you for your support. How will GFL? By the way, that first card GFL has put out there, that Ariel put out there. I know it's not one card; it's actually 2 cards in consecutive days. I have no confidence that they're going to ever have more than one show. I feel like this is Golden Boy MMA 2.0, right? But that's the kind of slop I get down with. Okay. I'm sorry. Faber, Barral 3, like that's, Rockhold, Weidman 2. I'm like, I don't hate these. Lima versus Uriah Hall. Like, okay, I'll see that. Anyway, back to this fantastic question from J Ray over here. The correct answer would be the third one. Living Color is a phenomenally underrated rock outfit. Okay. GFL is the slot BC lives for. Not long term, not completely. They look like a clown show. But they got some slop offerings up front that I'm okay on. Yeah, Living Color is insanely underrated. So my dad was a massive Living Color fan. So I grew up album by album hearing them. My dad was such a big fan that he bought all of the Corey Glover solo tapes, cassettes, CDs, and saw Corey Glover solo live a few times. I finally got to see Living Color live in 2004 at the legendary Toad's Place in New Haven, Connecticut. And it was a very memorable show. It was a Monday night. I had to work at the factory the next morning at 6. And on top of that, Living Color didn't come on stage until after midnight and then played a nearly 3-hour show. So I got 2.5 hours of sleep and then, worked a full day shift in my mid-20s in the factory, wondering how my life got to that point. But, and this is, 2004, their prime heyday is what, like late 80s, right? Early 90s. And, obviously the connection with their biggest hit being CM Punk's theme song. But they kicked so much ass aftermarket in 2004 when I saw them live. I mean, it was just an explosive show. Vernon Reid, who, by the way, is a great Twitter follow because all he does is quote tweet questions from fans about rock music history at large, jazz music, all that, and give his opinions. He is a Jimi Hendrix clone. Your boy BC is a Jimi Hendrix super fan. Remember, when I named this channel, the working name was always going to be this. I forgot that was what Joe Rogan called his, because to me, it was always going to be the Brian Campbell Experience. Because of that man who hates Canadians? No, because of James Marshall Hendrix, right? Like, holy crap. I did get to that point that O'Teal Burbridge also got to, of Dead and Company, where one day we woke up and we were like, you know what? I was wrong. Jimmy's actually the GOAT. He's actually the greatest of all time. What, BC? The greatest guitarist? No, the greatest artist of all time. The combination of innovation, songwriting, vocals, even though he hated his own voice, and he's also the best guitarist of all time. Vernon Reid was a student of that man. So when I saw them live in 2004, J. Ray, it was Vernon Reid doing Band of Gypsies covers. I mean, it was an awesome show. If you want me to say who's more underrated between him and the fantastically strong vocals of Corey Glover, it's Vernon Reid. Vernon Reid should be a guitar legend, and he is for those that know, but also he's kind of forgotten or unknown. I mean, maybe that's because at the time that Living Color hit, rock music was going in a much different direction. It was hair metal, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, why did Guns N' Roses hit so big in 86, 87, whenever they launched? Because it was like 70s roots rock, but like dialed up in the 80s, and it stood out from the heavy metal, hair metal that was happening. In a lot of ways, Living Color stood out in their own way. And it's not that they didn't get popular, but they didn't, to this day, people don't think of them as that. I mean, they did in some ways have one big album and one big hit, but I think, for the people that didn't follow their catalog after that. But if you don't know, you should find out about the great Vernon Reid and check him out. Go on YouTube, live it, love it. Tell him BC sent you. Thank you, J. Ray. You know the path to my heart, okay? And that path is lined with hot dog buns and Delta 8s. And yeah, there you go. What's your favorite color, baby? Andrew Nance, thank you. Jim Nance's nephew. We appreciate that. Jim is going to retire from the Masters. Who saw that coming? BC and Reggie, the best dynamic duo. One of them. One of the best ever. Okay. It's not easy protecting that guy in this house. He's the other day, actually yesterday, and by the way, Andrew, thank you for supporting the show. Yesterday, as I think at least two members of my families were like, Reggie, you blah, 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 because he had upended the other animals who were sleeping. I mean, he'll go up to the big dog and just annoy her so she'll get up from the dog bed and then he'll cushion in. Also, he scratches the crap out of every piece of furniture. He's a menace to society, right? Is that the Tupac Janet Jackson vehicle? And I had to be like, hey, family, he was almost dead a few weeks ago, and we were like rallying around him. All right. Can we get back to that mode? Can we remember that, please? All right. There we go. Let's hear from UFC old men who's here supporting the BCX. We support that. Yeah, baby. Hey, Brian, longtime fan. He's loved me long time. Yes, thank you. I think Morning Combat with a C, there we go, Morning Campbell, would benefit from adding MMA Guru as a third mic. His humor would be a great compliment to you. So I have to say, when MMA Guru like first hit the scene, I remember he did a video where he like tier ranked all the MMA podcasts in the world, and he had Morning Combat in there, and he gave like really funny and really honest breakdowns. And I remember thinking, man, this guy's kind of funny. Like it's not like I'm against MMA Guru for life. I've seen some toxic behavior since then. I don't watch his shows, but I got a hat tip, of course, to the success he's had. Not always my style to so aggressively, go after bait fighters or other journalists for sure. But could he exist as the third MK voice? No, I don't. I mean, what are him and Luke gonna kumbaya on the set? No, it would be as Jan Pol likes to say, Guru and Luke on the same pod would be wild. There's no way those two would last for over an hour or under it for that matter, most likely. And I think Guru's called out Luke before, and I think Luke's even responded. I don't know. That's not my fight. That's not my lane. Guru can be funny, but I don't watch his stuff anymore. It's not necessarily my thing. But apparently he like ratio, is that the word? Ration. What happened a couple weeks ago on this show where all these people dropped in? If that was like goodwill from Guru, then I'll say shout out to that. Okay, there we go. Remember when we thought that guy was in a wheelchair? He's pretty jacked dude though. I think I saw him on a video training with DDP. But I'm not looking to get in wars with people in this game. All right. I'm looking to do the opposite. I'm looking to face F every listener of this. No, I'm kidding. Luke would run he'd go for that high C probably. I don't know. Or maybe, what are you going to do? Point fight me? You know what I mean? Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Matthew Garrett sent it to you as a DM on Instagram. You said WTF. All right, let me see what this is going on. Maybe I didn't make the connection in my eyes or heart. Matthew G. Maybe that's what happened. Okay. Maybe I didn't realize it was you. I mean, what the hell is even your handle? Nope, that's not you. All right, Matthew, I'm gonna have to I mean, you really want me to see this. I want to see it. All right. Hold on. I'm gonna pause this podcast and find it for you. I don't see you in my DMs. All right. Maybe you're under a different handle. There we go. Send it to me again. I'm sorry. Thank you, Matthew. Send it to me again. You've been trying to get me to show it to LT. Send it to me again. I say what WTF a lot of times because people send me very, very ridiculous things in my DMs that could never make the show. So thank you in that regard. But I don't know necessarily what you're referencing. All right. Run them cheeks. That's my guy right there. That's Joe. That's Joel. That's my guy right there. Okay. Hey, BC, are there any albums by artists you loved that really disappointed you and still do? So you're saying, are there any album? Okay. So you're saying it's an artist that I love, but an album that I dislike or hate or was really disappointed by? Yeah, that's a great question. It's a wonderful question. I mean, all of our bands have, the low moment or the spare tire album or the, sophomore jinx or the we're going to break up, but the record company panicked and put out a collection of B-sides and it doesn't hold up to the rest of the catalog. I mean, there's countless examples of that. But I think you're specifically asking where it's just like WTF. I mean, kind of like the first time I heard Saint Anger by Metallica, and Non-Flying Fin is like, yo, the Black Album. And the Black Album by Metallica certainly has a very polarizing reaction, or did and still does, to a lot of people, from the idea of, did this hard ass band sell out? Well, yeah, they did sell out. And then they sold out arenas and record stores and all that. Like they sold out a lot, but it's also a pretty awesome all-time album. That wouldn't fit that, because at least that album's great, even if you're a hardcore, Metallica fan for different reasons. But yeah, I mean, it can be certainly when a band has lost their fastball and then they're kind of leaning into, but I think you're asking, I think the best way to answer this question would be when a band takes a chance on a genre and it's really just not what you're into. Now, Joni Mitchell's a great example, because she, like Bob Dylan, like Neil Young, like so many great artists who have had long careers and have been trendsetters and innovators, they're always ahead of the game, switching genres, especially when their audience isn't ready. So I as much as I love Joni's catalog, I'm sure when she went from folk to kind of almost pop rock and roll to hard left turn into like avant-garde, almost jazz, into like aggressive pure jazz, that in many ways people are like, she stopped being what I love. I just can't find the perfect answer to this question, the perfect example of when the Queen disco album, says Jan Paul. I don't know necessarily which one you're referencing there. You're not referencing jazz, right? It's a great album. Tu Chang says when Little Wayne jumped the shark with his rock album. Yeah, these are the type of examples, even though I don't know that reference from a listening standpoint. I get what you're saying. The Kiss disco album, people are saying here, Lazy Bed, that certainly would be a jump the shark type deal. Saint Anger sucks. Thank you, DJ Serenity. Now, let me think here. Let me think in my core. Well, people are going to hate this. And it's not like I don't recognize that this album by the Beatles probably deserves 4.5 to 5 stars in hindsight. And it's not like I don't recognize that for the time it was very innovative in the psychedelic realm, even though after many years, especially within that psychedelic realm, which I have come to learn and realize is the best subgenre in all of rock history, I just don't love Magical Mystery Tour anymore by the Beatles at all. It's a sore thumb to me. I've got it on vinyl, and it's a sore thumb, and it's one of those rare sore thumbs where I can understand. Oh God, Lazy Bed, you're hilarious with that. The Macho Man rap CD is actually the opposite. It's the best thing ever. As Garth Brooks is Chris Gaines. That could be a perfect example right there. It's just so weird, but not weird in the interesting sense. To me, weird in the overly polished sense. Yes, I like some songs on there. I mean, Flying is a jam. No one ever talks about the Beatles song Flying, an instrumental jam. But all in all, I don't reach for that record. I think Sgt. Pepper's has become the ultimate, like, one day it's completely overrated and the next day it's completely underrated because it's so of its time and can be polarizing. But I'm trying to find the perfect example of exactly what you're saying when ultimately, yeah, be a man, Hogan. Damn right, Lazy Bed. Speak it, right? The Perfect Friend, the great ballad tribute to the late Kurt Hennig. So many great jams on that album. Where a band just went somewhere and you're just like, man, I'm not going with them. It's certainly happened. I think usually it's when somebody leans hard into pop. And they change who they were. Oh, let's give a great example. The band Chicago, who I grew up thinking that they absolutely sucked, because the Chicago I knew growing up was the Peter Cetera obnoxiously overly romantic ballad produced by that famous producer. It just wasn't like, and by the way, Chicago, after Terry Kath died, also had a disco album called Hot Streets that's awful, and they actually stopped naming the record naming convention of Chicago 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with that album. But who they became when I got into Chicago, I went back and got, the Terry Kath era. I got 1 through 11 ultimately. I can't go after that. They turned so shamelessly into pop and stopped being exactly the jazz oriented blues rock jamming band that they were. I mean, they're stuff like that's where classic rock radio lies to us. It's like I thought Chicago was Peter Cetera singing "If You Leave Me Now," right? The reality is, the first 2 records are insanely great. 5, 6, 7. There's some killers in there as you go down their catalog. That'd be a great example. To some people, the way Genesis also had a hard turn into pop, but it wasn't as drastic. It was more gradual after Peter Gabriel left that band and Phil Collins went from the drum kit to the vocals. But there was a marked shift. I think subtly, though, losing the lead guitarist there after that also. Steve, what's his name, also changed that. But I'm just going down a rabbit hole right here. And as Nocina would say, 25 or 64. Yeah, it is a banger. It is absolutely a banger. Chicago 2 was my favorite Chicago record for a while. But I got to say, the first one, originally called Chicago Transit Authority, now I guess loosely referred to as Chicago 1, is actually their best one. Raw, aggressive, mixing that jazz. Yeah, there we go. All right. Let's keep this going. All right, Matthew Garrett just hit me up with his thank you, Matthew, with his handle, with his name. I got to see this tattoo. It's been a couple week thing here. I won't release his government name, all right? No, I can't find it. I can't find it. There it is. Okay. Oh, that's a really bad tattoo, dude. That is a real wow. Yeah, I did tell you WTF. So you sent me a tattoo of somebody, a mom, I believe, who got tattooed I don't know if you can see this on the level that I want you to. A baby suckling on the breast on the arm. Yeah, that's really obnoxiously bad. I mean, it's heartfelt. It's the intentions are good, Matt. That is wow. Wow. That is yeah, that's something right there. That's ridiculous. I got all right. I'll tell you what. Because you were persistent and because you support the show, we'll get that in HYSTS on Monday and we'll get a Luke Thomas live reaction. Okay, so don't spoil it. There we go. Let's hear about Lazy Bed's dad. My dad's favorite song is Bad Company by Bad. It's a badass song. All right. That first album, the first one's badass, all right? Let's hear Jan Paul. But Black Sabbath used to have a wild sound change after Ozzy left. That's true. But the problem is that the only person not liking them becoming British new wave band was Ozzy himself, and Dio cooked him over it endlessly. I never got into the Dio era of Black Sabbath. I do love the first 2 Ozzy albums, as anyone else should. Even the third one, Bark at the Moon, has some good moments. I mean, there's the thing about Ozzy, and I used to be really into Ozzy and Sabbath in the early 2000s. I won't put him in the category of like a AC/DC or a Van Morrison, where I'm basically like, you know what? They can't make a bad album. Even their bad albums are still so closely sounding to their good stuff and still them that they can't make a bad album. Even Ozzy's like bad albums were redeemable back when I was really into him. And it helps that he's always got a Randy Rhoads, Jake E. Lee, Zach Wild with him, just an absolute, badass guitarist next to him. But yeah, good chat right here. All right, let's keep it going here. I would run them cheeks, Joe. I wish I had a better answer for you. I mean, that's a great question. Give me a week, okay? Give me a week to really get it on there. Let's hear from Kipapa. This guy knows Hawaii. This guy knows the Lava Shack. But this guy don't know BJ right now. Can you help BJ? I cannot help BJ. I hope somebody can. I hope somebody over there can. I don't know. I hope the UFC can. I mean, they I guess they tried to help him out by running him into all those losses to try to. Damn, this is where I really wish. I mean, we can complain about fighter pay, about these contracts with the UFC. and you're always going to argue like how responsible should a sporting promotion or organization or league be for its athletes down the line, right? Like a lot of NFL players banded together and sued and won settlements to be able to get certain levels of healthcare that they don't have, and I want that for all the fighters, but I don't know where that line and limit is of when but I would hope and wish, and maybe it has already happened, I don't know, but I would hope and wish that given where the UFC is, the financial level of control they have, that they would reach. I mean, that's where I'll respect WWE. And maybe you can argue with what I'm about to say, WWE did it to save their face, but WWE would send long retired wrestlers into rehab and pay for it to try to clean them up, and maybe that's to not have all these deaths in the news cycle. And, Benoit changed a lot of things, but I'll always respect that. And so I hope somebody is looking out, not just Meza Rod over here, who's apparently just helped BJ. I don't know if he means Penn, though. That's the thing, right? There you go. Okay. Let's hear from Afghan Commander. Thank you for your Canadian loonies. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. How do you get to MK Studios and you are never late? Well, it's not that I've never been late, but I think you're making a reverse backhanded hypocritical finger point at Luke Thomas, which I think would be deserved. That's why I brought it up on MK. I mean, who could forget the famous drinking show in year one of MK? I think it was New Year's Eve. And by the way, that night is when I got really sick and then ended up in the hospital the next day with like COVID 17 and a half when I was patient zero, and really had like a serious health scare that one day. It was actually really scary. And Luke killed me when I came into that studio late, even though I was bringing gifts. I had the beer, I had the tip to tip frame poster that I had broken the glass frame on the train. But, I was at the mercy of Metro North's delays at that point. And Luke, unfortunately, of late has been at the mercy of Amtrak, subways missing his stops and all that. I'm not going to ruthlessly roast Luke like he did that time to me. I think we've tried our best to make fun moments of there. Who could forget? Maybe arguably the best moment in MK history when Luke was late at the old bomb shelter, and we had Jake Von Amsterdam there with the camera on the sidewalk, roving reporter waiting for him, going up the elevator. That was your boy BC's idea. I pushed for it. I argued for it. I yelled for it. I said, this is the dynamic content we need, and we got it. And yes, Luke's been on a run lately. I think in my case, I have a long train ride from Hartford to New York. And basically, I'm in a position where I have to take like a 5 a.m. train to guarantee that I get there on time. If I would take any train that's later, I'd be like rolling into the studio around 10:35, 10:40, and it would be too much of a anxious anxiety headache. And think of how many times with delays that I would miss the start of the show. So I have committed to that 5:11 or sometimes 5:22 a.m. train that gets me into the studio like 3 hours early. But it's not awful, even though, yes, two Changs, Amtrak is very shitty of late. And so that is in fairness to Luke. And he is, to his point, coming from a much further distance than I am. But I get to that studio like at 8:45 for that 11 a.m. show. I guess that's like 2.5, a little over 2 hours early. I get some breakfast. I can watch fights that I hadn't finished on the train. I can go over notes, and then Nocita's rolling in there a few minutes later, and we're having our own podcast. We're just broing out. So, and will I go to the Meadowlark fridge and sample the salami packages there and everything else they got? You're damn right. Okay. They're gonna have to keep, hey, Skipper, you're gonna have to keep me out of that fridge. Okay. All right. Cause I'm an employee there one day a week. So there we go. There we go. As Nocita would say, the pod before the pod between two podcasters. Yep. Yep. John with the love that bridge. So I used to take that Bridgeport transfer, but that's the Waterbury line that connects in Bridgeport. I'm connecting in New Haven every Monday, which is it's not Newark Penn Station, but it's it can get a little wild in there. It can get a little loose. Actually, I've stopped getting off in Hartford because it can also get a little wild in there. I get off a little bit earlier, but no one needs to know that. There we go. All right. 3 hours early. Jesus. Well, yeah, shout out to Jesus, but also, yeah, I get there early. But I've embraced it. It's a long day. But it's like, look at what we get to do. You know what I'm saying? There it is. Whoomp. There it is. Okay. Let's hear from Kipapa. Thank you for supporting the show. Any chance you guys covering more Muay Thai and kickboxing at MK with the awesome Tim Wheaton? I have to say, I'm not going to lie to you. I never heard of Tim Wheaton before this. Then when Luke was like, hey, this would be Luke had a great idea. And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And that dude hit a home run on our show. I mean, that guy got me fired the heck up for a fight I knew very little about with his passion and charisma. I hope that guy gets big jobs in that space because he's got it. I would love to have him back on the show. Will we be covering that? I think when it makes sense. I think there are special areas. Like, could we get a clue ahead of the NCAA wrestling championships each year and bring that into the MK fold? I wouldn't be against it. I don't love grappling, but we do recap of the Craig Jones Invitational or some, anytime there's a super grappling match, we'll bring it up. I'm not against bringing that stuff in. It's a combat sports show, just like I'm not against, even though it's probably not going to happen, but because Luke hates pro wrestling, I wouldn't be against talking about something major happening in there. I wouldn't be against having a 5-minute segment on John Cena's heel turn. But I get it's not for everybody. I get Luke's not going to watch that. So hopefully Telvin, hopefully we will. Okay. Cause that was fun. It was fun to get excited for that. It was new. I didn't know Takeru from Superlek from Adam, Adam Ant. Yeah. Oh, Mark, you're just, oh, these are some good questions coming. I got to star a few of these. Danger Mouse is speaking for the people here. No pro wrestling things. I figured. I'd rather see a kickboxing segment than wrestling. Okay, that's fair. It's interesting. What do you guys think of that comment that apparently Joe Rogan said on the Fight Companion thing on Saturday? Not the comment about Canada and Russia, but the comment about that he feels Dana messed up with Power Slap and should have taken all that money and attention and made a UFC kickboxing league with small gloves. And he's probably right. I mean, I've been making the same argument for boxing, for a while that, hey, Dana, you missed here. And look, I get it. Dana's trying to, there's a great video. I don't think thank you for that. Yeah, I've seen that section. It's long. It's very long. I don't think that MMA On Point gets enough love. And those guys were so gracious to us when we went to London for that live show and we visited their studios. And, Jason Bailey, and I love those guys. Tommy Toehold, shout out to those guys. They have a really good video out on whether Dana's going to eventually retire from UFC or how soon or what have you. And, they make a lot of great points about Dana's disinterest now in MMA and how, Power Slap is his way of recreating the UFC's life cycle all over again. Everyone doesn't want the sport. Everyone says it'll never thing. So he's motivated to prove it. But yeah, he screwed up. Power Slap sucks. It sucks. It's horrible. It's not redeemable entertainment. It's a 1 second social media clip. And you're like, oh, that was gnarly. I mean, it's gross. Kickboxing, Muay Thai would be fantastic if they went in that direction. I think I would rather them do that over grappling. I don't know if their sudden interest in grappling is more of a reaction to the success Craig Jones had. I don't know. I don't know the thinking behind that, but I really feel like just as they probably could have been in boxing already doing it their own way, but I respect that Dana doesn't want to do crossover fights. He doesn't want to just have a boxing league where his UFC guys can exercise their want. He wants to do it real. So I do respect that, but he might be right. Joe Rogan in saying that Dana, all right, this is Steven. That is just not acceptable behavior here. Okay. Hey BC, watch it. Power Slap is bigger than Taylor Swift. Yeah. You guys see LeBron on Pat McAfee today? That was wild. I didn't expect him to go on an hour and talk that ish about Stephen A and Brian Windhurst. Wow. You got LeBron saying that Giannis would score 250 points a game in the 1970s. All right, hold it right there. Hold it right there, Libro. Okay. Good Lord. Let's hear from Lazy Bed. Tommy Toehold and John Anik are my podcasting inspiration. Very, very, very successful, well-versed gentleman right there. Spurs 420 watched When We Were Kings last night. Amazing. Thanks for the rec. So Luke, I think, actually recommended it. I have not seen that since like the 90s, I think. I'm so overdue on going back and watching that Oscar-winning incredible documentary chronicling the journey to the Rumble in the Jungle. And remember, like, there was an injury, a cut to one of the fighters or something that delayed that fight. They were already in Africa and it just delayed it. It was a soap opera. It's a great doc. You got to see that one. You got to. Okay. All right. Yeah, you're right, John. You're right. MMA on point is always on point. They got a good system there. They got a good formula and they're good dudes. All right. And that's what we're looking for in this toxic sport. Good dudes. All right. Beautiful guys, as Triple G would say. All right. Somebody wants to know my game plan in a fight against Luke. Where is that question? I think I started. All right. Portuguese Herzog is here. That's an interesting name with a Brazilian flag too. That's very interesting. Mr. Campbell, what would be your game plan in a fight with LT? So I guess we're doing, is this a street fight or is this like a MMA fight in a cage, right? I'm going to have extreme disadvantages here in not only the fact that Luke is extremely stronger than me, bigger than me, and well-versed in, or, versed enough in jiu-jitsu and grappling, of which I have ill done, right? What would be my game plan ultimately in a fight with him? My game plan would be to gas him out. I mean, that would have to be my game plan. Or, focus on a distant strike like a low calf kick that would anger, frustrate, and hopefully immobilize that large fella. Luke's a big, strong dude. He gets after it in the weight room. I've lifted with him. He's very knowledgeable. I got a lot of respect for that, especially when he's closer in shape, like he's been at times in recent years. But yeah, I'm going to have to, not that my gas tank at this exact second is, something to speak out about. I retired from basketball. Is it a full-time retirement or a part-time one? I got to look in the mirror and answer that. But I did retire from basketball this season for the first time. So, but I got to try to gas this guy out. I got to try to immobilize him and ultimately use his weaknesses against him. So there we go. Thank you. Or I'll just do something really gross, right? Really ridiculous. Or just watch that Boss Rutan bar fight video again of how to, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Mark Andre Burial, BC, would you do a bong along on April 20th? No, I would not, but I'm sure the main card minute is fired up and ready for that. Two Cheng's oblique kicks is the only way early. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to load up on a, because if you think about it in boxing, how much that left hook to the liver, even for guys that aren't known for power, can be an out punch. Look at Mickey Ward. He made a career out of falling behind in fights and landing that perfect shot. I'm going to have a kick ready, but I got to time it perfectly. I got to make sure it lands flush, and I got to take advantage when he's, yeah, there you go. Two Changs. All right. Luke's shoulders are jacked up. You got it, BC, says the Anvil. Yeah, I got to play dirty. Well, not necessarily play dirty, but I got to lean on any advantages right there. This is Kevin G. BC, real question is who would win an academic decathlon? So I can't even tell you how many times I've pitched this. This is one of my great regrets. Do you guys remember that? It's actually that one of the videos is in my intro when we're at that park in like literally a bad neighborhood of Jersey City, and I'm comedically missing the layup. Luke and I shot this back in like 2019, was it 2021? We shot a free throw contest against each other that had a lot of trash talk. And it was, or at least I was understanding it to be, the beginning of a Billy Madison style academic decathlon that would have seen Luke and I going head to head in a series of events like ping pong, darts, free throws, what have you, arm wrestling. I mean, we pitched a lot of crazy stuff. And for a little bit, it looked like we were going to acquire this footage and eventually make not a documentary, but something like that. It never happened. I believe our producer wasn't fully in love with the way the basketball scene came out. And obviously we don't have the Showtime budget anymore or the direct access to Jake Von Amsterdam, who sometimes comes in on Jake does work for the extended group, all the smoke fight, and sometimes he's been a part of some, MK days, but I'd like to get to a point where we have Jake on the regular and we can get back to doing the type of extra stuff that made MK special. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Two Changs is out of here, folks. We wish him well. Get into the office. I don't know. What do you think Two Changs does for a living? A loan shark, maybe? Probably. Dave Sandine, I just want them to play MMA Jeopardy. I'm ready to go head to head with that guy on any circumstance at any time. Let's go. All right. I've always said, part of live chats head to head. Luke said, I'll crush you. I said, let's go. Let's find out. You don't make me get up in the bullpen. All right. No, he would crush me at first, but don't make me get up in the bullpen. Thank you. Yeah, the basketball scene. So Luke and I did have a free throw contest that was kind of interesting, but I don't know if you'll ever see it. I've been trying to get it published for a while now, but where we are now as a show, we need to start being happy with that we're here, considering what the last year and a half was. We still got hopes and dreams. We're getting close to acquiring those ways and means, but it's been a harder adjustment than we ever could have imagined. So thank you. Thank you for being here along the way. All right. Luke wasn't that bad. His form was pretty good. I mean, I don't want to give you the results of the thing in case it ever comes out, but I don't think Luke would be a gracious. I don't think he would either, to be fair with you. We love Luke, though. Shout out to Luke Thomas. All right. I've been saving a few of these questions. Marc-Antoine Dussault from Quebec. What do you think of King Crimson? Dude, I love King Crimson. Listened to In the Court of the Crimson King for the first time yesterday and thought it was great. So that's their well beloved debut album that I actually don't own and still don't know. I've heard it before digitally. So let me tell you quickly about when I started the prog journey, and obviously there's different lanes and layers to prog, just like any great genre. When we think prog, we think, or at least I think, Rush, Yes, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, right? But there are different avenues. And I have to say, after starting to sample their collection, King Crimson is arguably my favorite form of prog because it's like prog metal. And it is just great. So hey, Reg. It all started at the London live show. And like I said, I knew about this great album, their first one, the one you mentioned there. It's an all-time 5-star album, and it was their debut. But a fan of MK gave me in the receiving line at the end of the London live show. And shout out to this guy. I've been trying to track him down. I think we talked once on DMs. Maybe that dude was there trying to send me that picture of that tattoo with the baby and the nipple. I don't know. But 1974's Red is an incredibly amazing King Crimson album. And it rocks so hard with prog, with the hints of that, classical background that is really the backbone of prog in a lot of ways. So Red changed my life. Song of the day. I think I've said this before, but if you didn't jump on it, do it now. Listen to One More Red Nightmare by King Crimson off the 1974 record Red. It could change your life. Since then, I have acquired 1974's Starless and Bible Black, which was the record before Red. Fantastic. Way different than Red. Fantastic. I even dipped into their 80s catalog and purchased Beat, which came out in 1982. And it's interesting because it's still prog metal, but it's prog metal in the era of new wave. And Robert Fripp, the brains behind King Crimson, the lead guitarist, the songwriter, there's other things going on in that man. That guy's a genius. He's a musical genius. It's not for everybody, but it's genius songwriting, orchestration, and it's hard and it's heavy, and it really could change your life. Hold on. Reggie just pulled the door again. Let's give you something to check out on here. Let's touch gloves for a second.
You just touch gloves. Why do you need to touch the gloves again? You just touch gloves.
All right, that is Rafe Boogstu and Joe Test back when we did the Ropes 2016 Snapchat podcast. We were ahead of the game on Snapchat back then. All right, there you go. All right, let's get into it. Marc-Antoine says, I'll just listen to the whole album, Red. Thank you for the rec, BC. I think you're going to love it. check back in next week and we'll get on it. All right. Thank you. Somebody just blew up that bathroom over there. Come on, people. Come on. All right. Hey, Reg, you want a moment? So Reg is under fire. He's under fire right now. He don't care though. If you think he cares, he don't care. I don't even think you care, but that's what's going on. All right, Devin Tuck is back. Appreciate you, Devin. Thank you. BC, do you think if you understood the point system / rule set, it's a good question, you would enjoy grappling more? It's a very dynamic sport, just hard at times to grasp. Yes, I'm sure if I really went after it, because what is my history of watching grappling outside of CJI? It's going to High Rollers and enjoying the gimmicks there and hanging out with Patchy Mix and Cynthia Calvillo and Emily Whitmire and everybody else that was there. It's tough. I just don't love the basic concept of it to want to get into it. But if I did make a run at understanding the true nuances, the skills, the point system, I probably would enjoy it more. I'm hoping that CGI 2 continues making it more palatable to somebody like me who's just, it's probably no different than hardcore MMA fans that are like, hey, MK, can you cut the boxing crap? I don't get it. I don't want it. That's kind of where I'm at with grappling, but that's fine. Everybody's got their holes or their passions. And speaking of filling holes, Taz wants to know, how do you think Diddy would do in UFC? I think he'd be the master of the rear naked. Not necessarily a choke, but you know what I mean? Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Serenity. This is my co-host today, Reginald J. All right. Let's knock out some of these super chats here. Appreciate you guys. And thank you, Devin, for that. I'm willing to try, Devin Tuck. All right. Tuck that in. Tuck that Mangina in. All right. Shadow 2 Bravo. Thank you, sir, for getting out here. Were the 96 Sonics the best team not to win in the 90s? Man, you're trying to ask me a question that I'd love to go 45 minutes on. It's a great question. They might be. But I'm here to tell you that as great as the 96 team was, right? Peyton, Kemp, Schrempf, Perkins, and they were great. And it was almost a shame that much anticipated finals matchup against the 72-win Bulls that year opened with Chicago going 3-0 and everyone kind of losing any care or level of hope in that series. And then quietly the Sonics winning a couple games and making it interesting. And it really was that change. And you do have to question George Karl's coaching here. He didn't want to put Gary Payton, Defensive Player of the Year, the glove on Jordan. So he didn't, and Jordan lit him up. But then when they made that change, so the Sonics came back and won 2 games and forced a game 6. And I remember at the time we were all thinking like, oh, this is a David Stern mail-in thing. The NBA knew this would be a sweep, didn't want it to be, wanted a couple more games to make more money. The TV people did too. So Jordan and company just rolled over. You have to understand, like, everything that happened in sports in the 90s, maybe it's no different than today, we thought was a conspiracy right after, like Foreman Moore. It was like, oh, that's fixed, right? It's just stuff blew you away. I think it was just the change. The Sonics saved face. They battled back. That was a great team. But my long-winded point, which will be different than my long-winded UFC points that I lost track of earlier and still can't find in my brain, is that I think the 94 team was better. The team that was number 1 in the West, the team that got upset in the first round in one of the biggest upsets in NBA playoff history, when that crappy 500 Denver Nuggets team with young Mutombo and him holding the ball after game 5 to close out the series in Seattle in the center of the lane. Obviously, that was a great F up for George Karl and company. And I will tell you that the 94 Sonics were not as offensively potent as the 96 Sonics. Some of that was the maturity of their stars. Some of that was some key trades they made. But that 94 team is one of the best defensive teams I've ever seen. And that was in an era of hand checks. 94 itself, right? The Knicks make the finals that year largely because of what? Because of the addition of Derek Harper, who was the king of the hand check, also the king of the timely three-pointer to break your heart. And he didn't average a lot of points, but he took control of the games. That 94 Sonics team with Peyton, Nate McMillan, the way they would trap, the way they would almost play illegal defense without getting it called, almost play zone without getting it called on them back when that was illegal. They were swarming. They were incredible that year because remember that's the year that Jordan played baseball. So we were waiting to see who's going to rise up in the NBA. What's the new power? It would turn out, of course, to be the Rockets, who would win it in 94, would struggle in 95, then acquire Drexler, and then come back from back-to-back 3-1 deficits in the playoffs to Rudy T scream into a microphone to never underestimate the heart of a champion. But I was thinking, as was many, because I remember that 94 season, I watched every nationally televised game. I mean, the NBA was my life back then. I would VHS tape a crap load of regular season games. And I remember all year, that Sonics team, anywhere they went, they whooped up on people. So that could be the answer. But I do think if we're going to fill out the possible answers to your question, we're going to have to include the 94 to 95 Knicks, who made the finals in 94 and kind of choked against the Rockets in a very good 7-game series. I don't know if the team choked as much as John Starks choked in game 6, but and then of course, I still feel like the Knicks would have won the championship in 95 if Patrick Ewing didn't miss that gimme finger roll at the buzzer of game 7 against the Pacers. I do, even though it was the Magic who would take down the Pacers in the conference finals. And even though that Magic team was so potent, they made the finals with Shaq and Penny. They were so potent. That veteran Knicks team, I think, could have taken them out in a 7-game series. I think that's the big regret, obviously for Knicks fans, but that team didn't get to win one while Jordan was away because they're not going to beat Jordan. He had them. He had their number. They're not going to beat them. The 92 Trailblazers are in this conversation, but which was the history of a lot of Rick Allman coached teams, coached them very loose, that team would fall apart in big moments. And then, of course, you're going to have to throw the 97 or 98 Jazz in here because they were, and I hated them. We all hated them, but they were just a defensive, tough, dirty, stiff, great shooting, amazing home court where you couldn't even hear yourself think. They're in that too. They might be the true answer. They might be the true answer. I mean, they pushed Jordan to 6 games back-to-back years. That's probably the best team of the 90s. That didn't win it. There you go. There you go. Thank you. All right. I gotta get through these. I gotta get through these super chats. Thank you, folks. Non-super chat from Remix. BC, I'm jealous you still play basketball into your 40s. I'm only 27. And I wish I was in a rec league so bad after years of not playing. Yeah, that's the one good thing I think I did, even though I was a lot of those adult years and not in great shape, poor diet, not exercising, but I never stopped playing. And my goal was to play forever. When I was in my early to mid 30s, I would lie about my age and play in the local 40 and over league. And, because I always had a game that was like a retro game. I always had a game that fit better with old guys, not just because they're a little bit slower, but because it's pick and roll based. It's old school. BC's old school. But, there were guys in their 60s who could still play. Okay, they're role players, but they could play. And they were faster than, some of those guys were faster than me or had more win than me. And they old guys can shoot the lights out. I remember asking those guys, like, how are you still doing this? And they're like, never had a major injury and never took a year off. They go, you can never, ever take a year off. So I tried to keep that rule close. I tried to, and I played through many years as an adult when I was just in really bad shape and I shouldn't have, but I pushed through. I mean, sometimes you come home from those hoop nights and you're throwing up in the bathroom, you know what I mean? It happens, right? But I got not only am I over competitive and that became a problem in recent years, I'm a little afraid. I'm a little afraid because the body doesn't heal as quickly now at getting and I've got very weak ankles. I've sprained my ankles a million times. They've always been an issue. Everybody's got a problem, right? Everybody's got a knee or a shoulder or something. I was afraid in my adult late 40s of having the kind of injury that's put me on crutches, can't travel for work, can't, because I'll end up bedridden from that. So that was part of it. But Remix, you're too young. You're too young to be like this, dude. Get out there. Get out there again. All right. Thank you. Sandine's dad is Rick Smith. I heard that too. I've heard that before. All right. Let's go. Let's go. A lot of super chats came in. I'm trying to keep up with them. DJ Serenity now, just supporting the cause. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm going to talk in circles every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Keep coming back. Appreciate you. Thank you. Alan W. has arrived. The international man of mystery. We love this guy. Yeah, that's your boy, Reggie, right? He's right here. He's looking out the window. He's looking for birds. He loves birds. That guy loves birds. Wow. Wow. Devin Tuck, my man. BC, how do you feel about creating this community? I love it. You know, I was a little like, you know, I've talked about it a million times. I was nervous about launching this channel because I'm always busy. I'm juggling always 2 to 3 to 4 jobs at one time. And you know, it's hard to do something passively. I am an all or nothing guy. If I'm going to do something, I want to give my all. That's been one of the hardest problems of this channel is, you know, not always having the time or the energy to do with it what I would want to. Like, I don't want to voice it into the ethos. Like, what if I lost my other job and suddenly I had to do the BCX aggressively, but part of me wants to. But the enduring gift in this has been what you're saying, Devin Tucker, creating this community. It began with MK. It's from MK. It's an extension of MK. Obviously, it's a different flavor to turn into a BC Ramble than an LT live chat or anybody else. It should be that way. But this community of weird-minded dudes who are, you know, kind of down for the cause for good reasons, I'm down with that. Okay, we can get through this together. Let's go. All right. Thanks, Reg. Let's go. So yeah, I love it. Oh, Franco's got a question. Yeah, I saw that. Let me get to that, Franco. That's my guy. Devin, thank you for that. Who we got here? This is Remix. Thank you, Remix. Probably a hot take, but I think Pantera's cover of Planet Caravan bettered than Black Sabbath. Were you an Ozzy or Pantera fan? So I actually don't know that cover that you're referencing, and I was never a big Pantera fan. Had friends that loved them. Certainly know their biggest tunes. I mean, it's more harder. It's harder than the kind of music I like to listen to regular, but I certainly respect Pantera and appreciate the musicianship. Yeah, I was a massive Ozzy fan, as I mentioned earlier. More Ozzy than Black Sabbath, but some of that is ignorance. Like I still have to go album by album and really dive in on Black Sabbath from this, you know, their 70s peak in a way that I necessarily haven't. I know the first record and it's so good and it's so rewarding. There's so many like great moments and extended jams that you just forget are there or you didn't think that band could do. But yeah, I had a huge Ozzy run in the early 2000s. I mean, the first 2 Randy Rhoads albums are just insane. The tribute album, the tribute live album, insane. Never did cross over into Pantera or Megadeth. Sort of had my limits, right? Could do some. I liked like I said previous chat. Like my Metallica window is Master of Puppets and Justice for All. I get why people love, you know, Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning. Not as much my thing. Just like the Black Album, not as much my thing, even though it's incredible. We all have our things there. So there you go. All right. I'm going to get to all of these one by one. Thank you. Michael Beal, thank you for your support. Is Ngannou versus Andy Ruiz Jr. a BC approved matchup? It's getting there. It's getting there. And that's really obviously a you know, a slant aimed at Andy Ruiz, who just, it's tough, man. That guy's got so much talent, but his whole career has been stop and start, not taking advantage, being overweight, scores that breakthrough, insane knockout upset. I mean, really, that 2019 Madison Square Garden, Anthony Joshua's US debut, last minute opponent change, and this chubby dude who people didn't realize had quick hands and was actually a decent prospect and a decent heavyweight at various points. To have a moment like that and to then punt it away, not just in the rematch when, thank you, Downey Pizza in California for blowing this guy's weight up, but the inactivity since then. I mean, you know, I fought Luis Ortiz in that weird pay-per-view, but like, where are you, Andy? Why are you not here? Why are you not cashing? I mean, this is the thing. This is the Renaissance heavyweight era, especially now with Turkey, right? But like, this is Fury, Joshua, Wilder, like on and on. Like, this is the craziest era. Andy Ruiz should have been a very valuable B-side in this era, but he didn't care, couldn't get his S together, blew up with the money, partied. Remember when his girl put all that stuff on the internet about when he got caught cheating and all the stuff he was doing? Like, I hate to see it because I like Andrew Ruiz. I always tell that story of my first night ever in Vegas in 2013 for Floyd Canelo when we ended up at that center bar outside of Hakkasan there at MGM Grand, and Andy Ruiz and his boys walk in and he's buying everybody shots. It's his birthday. We had some great, I love that guy. He's nearing the point where if he's going to fight again, it'd have to be against somebody like Ngannou. So yeah, that is a BC approved matchup. I'd get down with that. But I hate that we're here. I hate that this is Andy Ruiz's lot. But maybe that's who he's always going to be. Maybe the passion just wasn't there. It can only be turned up in key moments. But damn, man. Damn. Damn. Andy Ruiz is the Leon Edwards of heavyweight boxing. Yeah, I guess kind of. Of now, I hope Leon bounces back, but it's not looking good right now. White Zombie rule. I didn't get into White Zombie, but I got respect. You are quite young for being. Are you talking to me? I'm not young at all, but mad respect to you. You're probably talking to somebody in the chat. There's a lot of conversations going on. Brody Merritt. Oh, this is good here. Next time you interview Virgil Ortiz, who I love, talk music with him. He loves Randy Rhoads. All right. All right. Next Virgil Ortiz fight, he's going to be on the BCX, and we're going to go like 5 to 10 on music and then like one boxing question. There we go. Also from Brody, what's up, BC? Ozzy's first 2 solo albums are great. Randy Rhoads is the GOAT. I like me some Jake Ely. Oh, Reg, come on, dude. You serious? So there's obviously birds outside. Reggie just tore down a lamp, and this is the RJ experience, and I don't mean Dunkle gangbang. Thank you. Let me get this before we have a fire. Hold on. Do we have anything for the people? Yeah, let's find out what's on the USB stick.
A message to Brian Campbell. Do not ask me what is on the USB stick.
You're only going to get that joke if you've been following Rafe Boogs in BC for years, but you can check us out 11 a.m. tomorrow on here on this channel. Reggie, a menace, a pure menace to society. I liked the Jake Lee era, loved the Zach Wilde era. Even though the Zach Wilde era will not compete in the Ozzy pantheon with the 2 Randy Rhoads albums, the 3 if you count the live tribute one, and that was obviously Ozzy's transition into solo from the end of his Black Sabbath run. I will say 1991's No More Tears, which was an early Zach Wilde album, is among my favorite. It's not better than the first 2 solo, but it has a place in my heart for that era, for Ozzy to still be at that level. Songwriting, Zach Wilde, that No More Tears is such a good album, especially at that point in time. Love it. There you go. All right, let's rock and roll. Let's get through it. Let's hit it. Thank you. We hit that one already. Some people are saying I haven't hit their question. Here we go. Franco's like, hey, BC, skipped over my. Yeah, all right. Let me find that one, Franco. That guy can box. Franco will get in your kitchen. That guy will take you out. All right, here it is. Thank you. Hey, Franco, for your support. Thank you. Just got on, so I'm not sure if this was talked about. But Paulie Malignaggi's been on fire lately on Paulie TV on YouTube. I've been enjoying these videos. I always have love for Paulie. Paulie came out 2 to 3 days ago comparing Kinahan and Turki Al-Sheikh because of some questionable dealing involving Turkey in 2022, and it's Paulie TV episode 26. So yeah, this is part of the trepidation that we have. Now, look, I've talked to people who've met Turkey and work with him. I know people that work at Ring Magazine. Like, they've got good reports. I'm not here to say that Turkey necessarily is this guy that's going to ruin boxing or ruin all of us. But to act like there's not trepidation in ways that go beyond just sports washing with this whole equation would be naive and not true. And it does go deeper, although this is as dark as you can get. It does go deeper than the Jamal Khashoggi Washington Post journalist murder, beheading, or whatever happened, with the Saudi government there. Turkey's had a big role in the Saudi government for a while. Paulie has been bringing up published accounts of heavy-handed things Turkey has done in his role in government that's out there for everyone to read. And it's scary and damning to be truthful. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm, like Luke Thomas has been from the beginning. I'll never go to Saudi. And, I've been in different points where I've been like, this is where boxing is going, or, maybe it's not so bad. And, people that have gone to Saudi have had great times. I've heard a lot of great reports. So I'm not here to necessarily draw a line in the sand or tell you how to feel. But the things Paulie are saying are true, it seems, and also scary. I don't know if you can necessarily compare directly Turkey and Kinahan. I don't know. I don't know the true story on a lot of this, but I'm glad Paulie has the guts to come out here and put this out there. It's part of the overall trepidation of the Saudi experience. And that's why it's not as easy to just be like, at least we're getting the fights, which is, the go-to thing. And if that's all you care about, that's fine. I get it. I've enjoyed a lot of these Turkey moments, but it's a different world and a different rules in different countries. We know that. So there's some ish out there that went down. Was that an isolated incident? Is that the way things go? I don't know. From my basement, I don't know. But it has to be said. It's part of the overall trepidation of what's really happening here. And, people that work for that side say it's great and everything's fine and everything. That's cool. I hope so. For everybody's sake. All right. But, and it's not to say that even, leaders in the US don't do dirt behind the scenes, or that there isn't government issues, regardless of which side is in control of the White House. Like, there's a lot of BS out there that go beyond JFK. There's a lot of scary stuff, but this is different than what we're used to for a boxing promoter. Even though what we're used to for boxing promoters are like, well, the mafia ran boxing, and then Don King ran boxing and, killed a couple guys. I mean, look, boxing attracts that. There's always going to be sketchy people in and out of boxing, but there has never been somebody with this amount of power this quickly and the threat of a complete takeover. So, I think people should watch that Paulie video. I think people should do their own research. It's, do I want to? I almost went over there ahead of Usyk Fury 2, and I would have been doing on camera work for Ring, and it was an interesting opportunity, and it just didn't work out. But, am I happy I didn't go? Maybe. Okay. Maybe. All right. There it is. Whoomp, there it is. Let's hear from Afghan Commander. Thank you for your loony support. We hit that already. Thank you. Yep, I get there early because I get up at the butt crack of dawn on Monday. Thank you. It's gonna be hard for BC to be late for MK with that train system, but look, I used to make it harder on myself just to sleep in a little bit more. I used to like drive an hour, then get on the train, then switch to a subway, blah blah blah. But it's hard at the end of a long Monday to then have to drive an hour home through traffic. So I finally gave in and joined the Amtrak life. And there's some pluses. There's a lot of negatives in this Amtrak world. Good Lord. You know how gross the train is from New Haven to Hartford? You probably don't. It's pretty damn gross, but whatever. All right. Franco, I hope I nailed that for you. I hope I gave it to you what you were looking for. It's scary as F. Thank you. That's a true fact. Okay. Thank you. Great questions today, people. All right. Great questions. Telvin Kipapa, my top 5 Adam Sandler movies. We talked a lot in this chat about, the impact that anyone my age that Sandler had in the 90s from SNL through that prime run of movies. I've also talked to you about how much I believe the one that had been my favorite, Billy Madison, has not held up, and that's kicked it back. I think I've given you a top 5 before, but let's do it again. All right. Because I do have to take into account not just Sandler's transition into a couple times more serious roles, but the Netflix run, which has been highs and lows at the same time. So let me call up this filmography if you're willing, and I'm going to give it to you right now. Okay. Telv, is that you, Key Papa? Yeah. You know what? He loves it when you call him Big Papa, Key Papa. That guy loves it. I was supposed to have him on today. My bad on that, Telv. Next week. Hey, next week, you're our featured guest if you want to, Delvin. All right. All right. Here we go. There we go. Where is this? Hit me with that filmography. Here it is. Okay. My number one Adam Sandler movie of all time is Uncut Gems. There it is. There it is. Okay. My number two of my personal list. I've seen almost all of his work, not as much in the Netflix era, but I haven't hated it all. Like, let me give you one underrated Sandler movie. Bedtime Stories. It's a family movie. Underrated. Okay. Number one, Uncut Gems. Number two, Happy Gilmore. Number three is going to be controversial because this movie made me cry. And then my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, like laughed at me over this. I love this movie. I don't know why people don't like it. Click is my number three favorite. Take that and do with it what you will. All right. I really like Click. I think it's a indictment on all of us who have trouble juggling the work-life family balance. All right. That's me talking. Number four. You know what, by the way, Bulletproof is underrated. Bulletproof is really underrated. My sister's boyfriend in high school, it was his favorite movie of all time. Damon Wayans, Adam Sandler, 1996. Not in my top five, though. Okay. Uncut Gems, Happy Gilmore. Three is Click. Four is the Water Boy. Five is Billy Madison. That's my personal list. I think I moved Billy Madison even back another spot from the last time I did a top five. It didn't hold up, and that was my favorite, and I saw it 4 times in the theater. That's what happens. You grow up. All right, there you go. All right, here's a real man, 9:15 a.m. I cried with, I straight up cried at the end of it with Click, with a girlfriend that I wasn't engaged to, okay? It touched me, okay? Alan W., your list is terrible. See, the thing about Alan W., he's not afraid to call out the BC out, and I respect that. But it's going to be dependent upon. All right, let's not make this into something it isn't. AJ McAnderson. This wasn't a full sob job. I can't control myself, but a little trickle. You know what I mean? A little trickle. Yeah. I thought it touched. But there we go. All right. Good morning, Vietnam, from Vietnam. Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Are you really there in Saigon? Are you there to support the sex trade? What are you doing there? Thank you. Okay. Intangible 79. Luke is missing train announcements with his headphones. Yeah, when he puts those, I mean, he's got those massive ones that tune out the world, right? I missed the train stop once. I missed the transfer in New Haven once when I was sitting in the 8th row, and it wasn't fun. I had to take the next stop like a half hour down the road and Uber back. Yeah, that wasn't fun. Thank you. All right, let's chip away here. We got some good ones left. NYM, New York Mets. Thank you very much. Hey, BC, thoughts on the undefeated prospect from Colombia, Ayata Fatwan? I don't know this gentleman. Are you making eat a fat one? Is this like a, I'm going to make BC say something. Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Eat a fat one. Also, who wins if Subriel Matias and Pitbull Cruz fight? That's a very interesting matchup. I think Pitbull Cruz, following the loss to El Rayo and following the shootout with a ballsy Angel Fierro on the Benavides Morel undercard, or was that the Tank Roach undercard? I think it was the first one in Vegas. I called it. I should remember it. I think Pitbull should start to realize that it's okay to go to 140 for money fights, but he's so diminutive even for a lightweight, even though he's tough as nails, very skilled. He can punch. I mean, he sent Rolly to hell, but I think he could have problems with Matias. And Matias is not as skilled as the elites. It's why he could get upset by Liam Paro the way he did. He's going to take punishment, Matias, until you tire and then walk you down like a zombie. But that size difference over Pitbull, I think, would give him problems. Now, Pitbull can box. Remember what he did to a one injured handed Tank Davis on short notice. He can box. He should win that. But if that becomes a shootout, I don't know if you want to shoot out with Matias. So I would take plus money on Matias to win that as an underdog. That's BC talk, because I don't think 140 is for Pitbull necessarily. He's going to have to prove me wrong in that regard. And did you catch me in a yeah, I think you caught me there. All right. Brody Moret, BC, who had the more classic interview with Floyd Mayweather, Brian Campbell or Brian Kenny? Definitely Brian Kenny, who had two classic ones. I was working at ESPN during both of them during that time. So I remember seeing that, being the boxing fan in my newsroom, and seeing Brian Kenny be a folk hero to us, being like the only guy in boxing journalism who's like challenging Floyd. Because remember at that time, Floyd was trying to set up a big pay-per-view fight with Zab Judah, and then Zab got upset by Carlos Baldomir. But because Baldomir couldn't afford to pay the sanctioning fee on one of the titles, because Judah was the unified welterweight champ, Judah retained one of the titles, and then Floyd fought him anyway on pay-per-view. And it was still a very tough matchup for Floyd, had that following near riot in the end. But, and then, to Floyd's credit, people were criticizing, why don't you fight the real welterweight champion, Baldomir? And then he did, and Baldomir didn't touch him for 12 rounds. But those Brian Kenny interviews were just legendary because he had the balls to challenge Floyd. Floyd was willing to play ball, got a little heated, and Kenny was there. It was great. It was great. My interview with the gaudy Versace robes there at the Logan Paul one was just me putting my finger in the sore and pressing Floyd's buttons. But I did it. I think I still did it in a way that I was trying to ultimately give him, I was winding him up, but I was trying to ultimately give him respect and say, Floyd, but at the end of the day, we were wrong. And I don't think he really got that. He thought I was challenging him, so he crapped on me. But the point was for him to crap on me. So, trying to make content. I don't know. I've had a long history of like challenging Floyd or writing columns about him. But I think all in all, I said it to Floyd's face. His great resume, which is already great, one of the greatest ever. Hey, there's Reg. Is just going to, Reggie, you want to knock anything else over? Why don't you knock over this Hulk Hogan doll? All right. That's the guy you should be knocking over. Or this equally as bad Sergey Kovalev nesting doll. Okay. Which is pretty badass though. Shout out to Main Events for that. I had probably the best Floyd interview I actually ever did. It was during one of my last months at ESPN in early 2017. Floyd was retired at the time, but was promoting, and he was in ESPN in Bristol, Connecticut to promote Badu Jack, I think against James DeGale at the Barclays Center on Showtime. And I had an opportunity in Floyd's car wash that day, which is when the stars come to ESPN and, go on every show, to sit down with him for a Facebook Live. And it was like it was like such a different Floyd than the normal interviews in a studio. We were sitting in a green room. There was somebody with a cell phone camera, and I just got to ask him about the current boxing scene, and he was challenging me and pushing back. And it was a really cool interview that like revealed a lot. And I think what I learned from that experience was that Floyd was antsy in retirement. Being a promoter at that point in early 2017, remember he retired at the end of 2015, it wasn't scratching the itch for him. And I think that was the beginning of, hey, Floyd, Conor keeps saying he could beat you in boxing. And, and that was the beginning of the build to that fight that would ultimately take place at the end, in the summer of 2017. So that was probably my best. I've sat down with Floyd a handful of times, but I also been sent to hell by Floyd, and probably rightfully so. I remember when I went to the Floyd Canelo, I was big on the Floyd needs to fight Pacquiao. He needs to stop ducking, and he's the biggest star. He owes us. He's just taking money. And I remember in like the scrum after the press conference, I'm like, Floyd, such a stupid dick question. Like, Floyd, who are you fighting next? We need to know. And he's just like, and he goes, who are you? He goes, don't you know the rules? We take it one fight at a time. And then I think he told me off at the end of that, which I think I deserved at that point. But there you go. I'm crying because I'm going to get there. There's a list. I'm going to get there, Lazy Bed. Let's get to it right now. Okay. You better still be in here, Lazy Bed. There it is. There it is. Great question. Here we go. I'm sure it is. All right. Lazy Bed. Great support. Thank you. check out Lazy Bet on Just Bleed Radio. The guy sounds like he's 14. Great guy. Hey, where's my guest spot? Where's my spot on JBR? All right, I'll have to go JBL on you if you keep this up. Lazy Bed says you're recreating the NWO invasion angle. Oh boy, but it's PFL versus UFC. What two outsiders are you sending from this man Lazy Bed knows me. What two outsiders are you sending from PFL, and who is the mystery third member from the UFC? So you're telling me that PFL is invading? So like when Hall and Nash left WWE, went to WCW, but it was shot in such a brilliant way that we literally thought they were crashing the scene as WWF employees. They weren't. So which PFL guys would I have, and who's going to play the role of Hogan, the incumbent that turns heel? I mean, it doesn't really work because it's pro wrestling on one side and MMA on the other, but wait, hold on. Serenity. Now, what was Ruthless? What was? All right, enough of that. Back to this question. All right, you're going to have to send, I mean, it really wouldn't work because, or are you saying the other way around? No, you worded it as two from PFL. The idea that, let's hear from Lazybed right now. You're choosing the Hall and Nash from PFL, and who is their Hogan? Exactly. All right. And Kipapa's like, yo, Don Davis equals Eric Bischoff. That's wild. That's wild. The Hall and Nash from PFL would be, you got to go. I mean, would you go like Paul Hughes and Dakota Ditcheva? Yeah, but it doesn't work. It's a great question, but it does. We're talking about pro wrestling. We're talking about MMA. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. All right. Thank you. I mean, I don't think I gave you what you're looking for. I know I didn't. You may never come back to this chat. I think I called you a 14-year-old boy. I mean, that's probably what was ruthless there. Love me some Lazy Bet. All right. I love Danger Mouse. Have we made up? Are we back on speaking terms now? I thought he was coming to the London live show and he hated us during that stretch. I think we're past that though. All right, Reggie, how are you? Remix. Thank you. Were you a AI fan? Yes. Okay. Allen Iverson. Sorry. I'm like artificial intelligence. Al Heyman. What are we doing here? I had the zip up sneakers as a kid. 76ers are my local team. Sad time with Joel Embiid now. I have not been following the fortunes of Philly of late, but is it sad? I mean, the whole Ben Simmons thing didn't work out. Neither did Markelle Fultz, but who's counting? I like Jimmy Butler when he was on the 76ers, but let's get into AI. Hold on, Reggie, you want the rake again? Yeah, buddy. All right. Who doesn't want the rake? Could somebody come around and there you go. Allen Iverson is my favorite college basketball player of all time. I was a UConn hater living in Connecticut. And I think the only reason why I was a UConn hater was because my best friend Bogo was a UConn basketball fan before the 89/90 dream season when they were a number one seed in the tournament, made it to the final eight, right? Got eliminated on that incredible Christian Laettner buzzer beater in East Rutherford, New Jersey in overtime. And to see all the fair weather fans that came out of that season that never gave a damn about UConn men's basketball before, and then suddenly we're all about it. I remember thinking like, man, you guys were fake. And the game that made me a college basketball fan was the 89 Final Eight matchup between Duke and Georgetown featuring freshman sensations Christian Laettner and Alonzo Mourning. I became a Georgetown fan out of that, with Mourning being my favorite player for a long time ever in college. And in the classic late 80s, 90s Big East scene where everybody in my town was a UConn fan, a Syracuse fan, small subset of St. John's fans, and me as a Georgetown fan, it was fun. It was like cheering for the Oakland Raiders, this evil empire type of team that comes out aggressive, defensive, willing to fight, all that. But when Allen Iverson came to them in 94/95, I mean, I've never been that, rightfully so. And, we knew the backstory of having been jailed for that, fight in that bowling alley as a high school senior, didn't get to play as a senior, knew of whispers of his exploits as the Virginia, junior football player of the year. And he was a one-man army. And I think the thing I initially didn't love was that Othello Harrington, I thought, was going to be the successor in that lineage of Ewing, Mutombo, Mourning. And he looked it as a freshman and sophomore, and he was their leading scorer. And then he really had to take a back seat to Iverson. But because Othello did take that back seat, the next year, Othello's senior season and what would be Iverson's sophomore and final college season, they were able to be what I thought was a national championship contender, a top 10 ranked team, a team that would make it in 96 to the final 8 and lose to that insanely stacked Marcus Camby led UMass team. Following Allen Iverson in those 2 years was so fun because it felt, think about it. That's coinciding with Mike Tyson coming out of jail. Like Allen Iverson, I as a suburban white guy, you don't hear me talking about the culture a lot, but Allen Iverson was like, for the culture. He was so hip and so cool and kind of dangerous with his backstory. Yet this tiny guy who I still to this day was the fastest college basketball player I've ever seen with a ball in his hand. Just insane. Back-to-back defensive player of the year in the Big East, could dunk over people, could score. Remember that game he had as a freshman against the Marbury-led Georgia Tech team. I mean, I remember his first game against Memphis. Yeah, AI was just so dynamic. My favorite college basketball player of all time. So dynamic. And damn, I love that 96 team. And like most Georgetown teams, even going back to the Ewing era, they had problems, as consistent shooters. But they had a seemingly never-ending bench of the gnarliest defensive players of all time, like Boubacar Ao and Joseph Tuamonu and Yaya Ja, and then you had this one-man wrecking crew of Iverson scoring the basketball. Othello Harrington and the junkyard dog Jerome Williams on the inside both would become NBA role players. I did follow AI into the NBA with the Sixers and loved him early on. It's not that I stopped loving him. It's just that, the Sixers weren't my team. I'm a Celtics fan. So pro AI took on a different meaning for a while. I felt in his first couple of years, he wasn't as much about winning. It was kind of a gunner, but damn, do I love and respect the AI who came to full bloom in 2001, winning the MVP, dragging that ragtag hard ass defensive team of, late pickup Mutombo, George Lynch, Eric Snow, Aaron McKee, like just these, like they had to basically strip off all the players because when Iverson came to the Sixers, they were like a street ball team. I remember we used to say like, the problem is there's only one ball. They may have Iverson, Jim Jackson, Jerry Stackhouse, on Derek Coleman, but the problem is there's one damn ball. But they single-handedly removed all of those scores, built the entire team in a way I've almost never seen in the NBA around AI. And obviously, you have to realize where we were in 2001, post-Jordan. It's the stretch that led to the NBA opening up the lane, bringing in the hand check rule, bringing in defensive 3 seconds, allowing you to play zone defense. They wanted scoring because it was such a jam-pack the lane and be physical era. Yet Iverson still could get to the rim every single time he wanted to. And I have so much respect because his time with Larry Brown before that 2001 playoff run was so checkered. He was always getting in trouble. And Larry Brown was a hard ass. But once AI bought in, once whatever happened where Larry Brown finally got AI's respect, the turning point was the 2001 All-Star game, the best All-Star game of the modern era. Up there with the 87 game that went into overtime, up there with the 93 game that went into overtime, up there with that, 98 game, Jordan's last one until the comeback that also featured Kobe hogging the ball and George Karl having to sit Kobe in the fourth quarter so he didn't upstage Jordan because he wouldn't stop shooting. But that 2001 All-Star game in Washington, D.C., of which I was there, by the way, with cousin Tim, until we bought scalp tickets and had to run away from the scalper who was chasing us, and didn't get into the arena and had to listen to the car on the radio on the ride home. Yeah, that was a rough time. But at that time, when I was a defender of the Eastern Conference, even though it was lame and there was like 3 good teams, the West had teams that weren't making the playoffs that could have been like 3 seeds in the East back then. The way that Iverson almost single-handedly, which wasn't true because Mutombo had like 18 rebounds in that game, and obviously Stephon Marbury, if you remember, hit 2 threes in the final minute that ultimately was the difference. But Iverson put that team on his back of him, Vince Carter, Mutombo, and beat, the 01 West All-Star team is like Kobe, Shaq, Chris Webber, Kevin Garnett, like just insane, right? That led the momentum into, I mean, when they played the 01 Lakers, who were on their way to becoming an undefeated team in the playoffs. The fact that Allen Iverson in game 1, the famous step over Tyronn Lue game that went to overtime and the Sixers won, I know they lost that series 4-1. They were always going to lose that series, but them winning game 1 on the Lakers floor when that 01 team had defeated everyone. Remember, 01 Lakers got rid of Glenn Rice, didn't really fit in. And even losing that scoring, they got better because it was all about Kobe and Shaq like it should have been. Damn, I love that AI. And I love the AI of his final couple of years with the Sixers when they didn't have the right supporting cast around him. They tried to bring in Weber. And just the way that he owned that arena and that fan base. I had friends who went to Sixers games a lot. They went to college in that area, and they used to get courtside seats, and they'd just say, like, the way Iverson could do the Hogan, the way he could command the crowd was just something, that hadn't been seen before. Special, special player. I'll never forget, as anyone else, with that Slam magazine cover of him with the throwback Philadelphia jersey with the puff afro. He's the man. He's absolutely the man. And, I hate to see, he always had a style that wasn't going to age great once his speed slowed down. And it did feel to some degree like the league just wanted him out at that point. And I think he's been you hear things about alcoholism and gambling with that guy, but I wish him the best. He always had to really carry a lot on his shoulders, whether it was self-imposed in some ways or not. But a guy that small, like barely, I know that he was listed as 6'1". He was like 5'11". Not overly muscular, but durable as hell. Always got back up. And again, this is the era where they pack the lane. And Charles Oakley's going to elbow you in the face when you drive in. And that guy, right? That guy. Key Papa, AI had the best dress. Yeah, he changed a lot of ways. I mean, he kind of forced the dress code upon the players. Oh, Reg again? Dude, Reg just opened the door from the inside. I didn't think he was capable of that. All right, let's take it home. I got Brandon Moreno coming up. We gotta take this home. Here we go. All right. Alan W. Speaking my language here. Thank you, Al. Grant Hill and Penny Hardaway, how much lost potential? Insane amounts. Absolutely insane amounts. If you weren't along for the ride Penny Hardaway was very good as a rookie, but the Magic weren't quite ready. They got his rookie year is 94. They got swept by the Pacers in the first round, but his second year where they went to the NBA finals, 94/95, he was first team all NBA. His third year, 95/96, the same year that Jordan came back and won 72 games and led him to the championship, Penny was first team all NBA. It would all fall apart, of course, when Shaq left them after 96, and then Penny tried to carry them in 97 on his own, played through injuries, a knee injury, probably shouldn't have, and like we know, just never recovered. Was okay with the Suns, but never recovered, became a role player, lingered. He was Magic Johnson 2.0. Not exactly the same, a better scorer than Magic, not the same passer, but, in that era of prime mid-90s, as a 22, 23-year-old, he could hit the three. He could drive and dunk over you. He's 6'8". He's incredibly fast, great handle, great passer. He could throw lobs to Shaq. I mean, he was on, that's the great regret. Shaq fell apart with a few relationships, right? Kobe being the biggest one, but at least they won 3 championships and went to the finals 4 times together. Him and Penny only going to the finals once in 95 and getting swept. And then, they were great in 96. You could argue that the 96 Magic were better than the 95 Magic. It's just that they ran into Jordan on the redemption 72 win comeback year. And to their detriment, don't forget how the 95 playoffs, Jordan comes back from baseball, body not in shape. They play that great Magic team. Nick Anderson styles on Jordan. They carry Horace Grant off after eliminating them on the court, right? Because that was a big pickup for the Magic in 94, 95 from the Bulls. And you don't do that to MJ. He took that S personally. You know what I'm saying? So them getting swept in the 96 Eastern Conference Finals was the death blow. But imagine if they didn't get swept there, or imagine if Shaq didn't leave to go to Hollywood the next year. Imagine if they had kept it together and Penny doesn't injure his knee. That team wins championships, maybe even before Jordan leaves the Bulls. Like, that team is winning championships, and Penny Hardaway is going to be a 13-time All-Star and go in the Hall of Fame. With that said, the lost potential on Grant Hill is even higher. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because Penny Hardaway was back-to-back first-team All-NBA while Jordan was there. Like, holy crap, right? And the guy that Grant Hill was becoming until the injury in 2000, he was early LeBron. I mean, just watch the damn highlights. It's not just, I know everyone gets a triple-double today any night they want. The game's wide open. It's easier. Also, I watched the video exposing this on YouTube, how many assists they're crediting people in today's NBA that just should not be assists. Side topic for another day. Grant Hill was threatening a triple-double in the late 90s every game, largely on a team that just didn't have the horses to go far. It's like him and old Joe Dumars, or him and Jerry Stackhouse. No front court. Bison Dele. And I still think it's an atrocity that Karl Malone won the 1999 MVP in that shortened season. Malone's numbers were down from the previous 2 years. When Malone won the MVP in 97, and people try to say, oh, he only won it because people are bored with Jordan. Not really true. 1997, Karl Malone was amazing, as was Glenn Rice in 97, his best year by far. But 99, Karl Malone, I know Utah won the West, but that was such a weird year. Everybody was overweight, Sean Kemp mostly. That should have been Alonzo Mourning on the Heat winning the MVP, or Grant Hill on Detroit. Even with Detroit just being an average playoff team, Grant Hill was the dunks on Mourning, just damn. And I know he went on to be a very good role player, and shout out to him for staying the course with all those ridiculous foot injuries. And we never got to see the super team opportunity he had in Orlando for a full healthy season with him and Tracy McGrady. And don't forget, they almost got Tim Duncan. They almost got Tim Duncan too. Imagine if Tim Duncan didn't stay on the Spurs and left his rookie contract and went to that Magic team, and Grant Hill didn't get injured. Great what if. Just like the same what if you can make. Are you still with me? That at the 1993 draft, if the damn Magic, although it was the right move in the end, they traded the number 1 pick to Golden State. They got Penny Hardaway. They gave up Weber. They got 3 first-round picks with that, and they set up Penny and Shaq to be the Magic and Kareem of the future. It didn't work out, but that's fine. It's the right move. But imagine if the Magic had said, you know what? Scott Skiles still has tread on the tire at point guard, and we have the best 3-point shooting tandem in Dennis Scott and Nick Anderson. We've got great defensive role players like Donald Royal and Anthony Bowie that no one wants to talk about anymore. And oh, by the way, let's add Chris Webber to Shaq in the front post. We'll play Webber on the high post, Shaq down low. That's a great what if. But I think Grant Hill would have even exceeded Penny Hardaway's greatness if the injury didn't happen. And it would have been a more natural handoff from Grant to LeBron it would have went from Jordan to Grant Hill to LeBron rather than essentially skipping that. But that's me talking about the NBA in circles. I don't even know if you're still listening. All right, let's round it out here. MMA Fanatic, thank you for sliding in here, and thank you for asking a boxing question, even though your name is about the mixed. If Tyson versus Foreman would have gone down, who would you have favored and why? So the time that they were trying to set this up, they being HBO, was the early 90s before Tyson went to prison. So it's the post-Douglas upset. Think of the guy who fought Razor Ruddock twice. Still a dangerous Tyson. Not as focused, right? The people in his life he cared about were gone. Don King is running the show. But that version of him against George Foreman, or even if, let's say, they would have done it post jail where Tyson was less complete, less dialed in, but still dangerous. Let's say, for example, that after George had knocked out Michael Moorer in 1994, remember 94, 95 is the area that Tyson's coming out of jail. He's fighting Peter McNeely, Buster Mathis Jr., and then finally getting into the title fights, the Frank Bruno one, the rematch, and then the Bruce Seldon one, which he took a fall, guys. Go rewatch it. I know Tupac died that night. Bruce Seldon, the Atlantic City Express, he took a fall in round 1, okay? Imagine if that happens. I don't really know. I have a feeling, I mean, George's chin, and even in the second half of his career, was incredible. Go back and rewatch George fighting Evander Holyfield for the heavyweight championship in 91, I think. George just took hellacious shots and kept coming forward. I mean, George took a beating in a few fights. Watch the George Foreman Alex Stewart fight from 1990. Very disputed decision. George was effed up in that fight. But think about it. Tyson is a bully. And if you can take his stuff and turn it around on him. Now, George wasn't the same athletic boxer as Holyfield was. So when Holyfield upset Tyson, when they finally met in 96, look, he crowded Tyson. He held him. He frustrated him. He was dirty. He led with his head. It's a different attack than what George is going to do. But I think George could have weathered the storm of that version of Tyson's power. It would have been, it might have been, Foreman versus Ron Lyle part 2. Seriously, it could have been a crazy fight where they both land multiple knockdowns and bombs. But I'm going to favor George because that's the thing, unfortunately, about that version of Mike. If somebody can stand up to him and get the better of him, he can fade. He can fall apart. That's BC talking. R.I.P. George. Also, Brody Moret, BC, I'm still laughing at you saying the call. Yeah, it didn't feel good coming out. I mean, it really didn't, to be fair. All right. I don't know if there's a white guy equivalent for that. DJ Serenity, Brody, the C in BC does stand. Yes, it does. It does stand for culture and cold cuts. Definitely cold cuts. All right. Brody, BC, can you talk about Felix Trinidad? Where does he rank among welterweights? The dude had a mean left hook. Yeah, Trinidad was great. He was great. He was one of the greatest finishers in modern history. And, he's a guy that had a flash chin, meaning, like a lot of his fights, he got knocked down early, but got back up, had sort of one of those flash chins, but was a killer as a finisher, especially at welterweight, especially at 154. Now, he was a player at 160, knocked out William Joppy to open that 4-man tournament in one of the craziest atmospheres in MSG history, although quietly Joppy's team they felt like there was a loaded glove. There was a loaded glove rumor with Trinidad back then that not enough people talked. It was like a message board thing. But Joppy said that Trinidad's power that night at 160 was just unnatural. Side topic, side argument for another day by the fire pit. But Trinidad wasn't perfect. Like Alan W is going to come in here and say Trinidad had bad balance. Yeah, like Trinidad wasn't perfect. And I think ultimately, Brody, that's what led to him getting exposed in the 2 biggest L's of his career. Now, I'm calling the De La Hoya fight an L, even though Trinidad won it controversially. And as I've said a million times as an Oscar super fan, but when you're a super fan of Oscar with all the BS he's pulled, you got to be an honest one. And Oscar does not get to argue that he got screwed on the cards against Trinidad because he willingly gave away the last 3 rounds and listened to his corner and was tired and circled away. But the totality of the first 9 rounds, as Oscar said when he walked out of that arena, angry from the loss with the confetti all over his face, he said, I gave him a fucking boxing lesson. He did. And so did Bernard Hopkins in 2001 at middleweight to conclude that tournament at MSG right after 9/11 in one of just the most, as much as Luke, rightfully so, Luke Thomas loves that performance of Terrence Crawford against Errol Spence. Said it brought tears to his eyes. He was in the arena, remember. I was home because my wife was traveling. It was her 1 week a year that she goes away to a conference, so I had to cover from home. And I get it. That was a really big fight where you didn't know what was going to happen, and one guy just pitched this masterful performance. For my taste, that was Bernard Hopkins against Felix Trinidad. So there were holes to his game, but he could box enough and he could get into these shootouts because his hooks were so tight. Watch the Fernando Vargas unification in the year 2000 at 154, one of the best action fights of this century. Watch the fight where Trinidad won his first world title against Maurice Blocker on Showtime, where he knocked him out face first. And the fight Dr. Ferdy Pacheco famously said on that broadcast, when they fall face down, you don't need to count. And he was right. He was great. A Hall of Famer. Eric Raskin got mad at me on Inside the Box a couple weeks ago when I argued with Rafe that Cotto was better overall, but that Trinidad was better at his very peak. Trinidad was a killer. Trinidad was a killer. He will wear you down and get you the hell out of there. One of the all-time greats, and the connection he had with the Puerto Rican fan base, I think, was deeper than anyone I ever saw. Now, I wasn't watching Camacho in his absolute prime, and I certainly watched Cotto, and Puerto Rico loved him. But Puerto Rico loved Felix Trinidad because he never stopped being one of them. He refused to speak English publicly. The pure joy of the celebration that Trinidad had in the ring after after beating De La Hoya by that disputed decision. And then they'd show the cameras of, watch the Legendary Nights. Go on YouTube right now, the HBO Legendary Nights series, the greatest of all time. Watch the De La Hoya Trinidad episode. They show the crowds in Puerto Rico just losing their mind watching that fight live. There was that connection with the fans. He was their guy. All right. He wasn't my guy. Oscar was, but he was their guy. Thank you, Brody. All right, let's take this home. All right. Great questions today. Great stuff. All right. Telvin Kipapa from Hawaii. Thank you, Telv. Hey, BC, could you ask Brandon Moreno what's his favorite Dragon Ball Z character for me? Okay. Oh, well, I'll tell him that Big Papa Key Papa wanted to know. And remember, Big Papa Key Papa is your hookup. Holla. I hear you, bro. I hear you. By the way, I just realized that Brandon Moreno is 0-2-1 in the UFC fighting in Mexico. Interesting. Can he get over that hump against Steve Ursag on Saturday? You're going to have to watch the BCX interview to find out. Okay. Thank you. Let's get into Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if that's my thing, yo. All right. Alan W., thank you. You international man of mystery, you. Winky Wright was in the same era and still gets no love. Yes, I'm so happy that Winky Wright did ultimately make the Hall of Fame because he was that guy. He was of that ilk. As Isaiah Thomas said famously in The Last Stand, he did fit the criteria. And unfortunately, he was kind of jobbed in a couple early decisions, particularly the Fernando Vargas fight, maybe even the Ike Corte fight. But the fact that Winky got through those, got the 2 wins over Shane Mosley, moved up to middleweight, fought Jermaine Taylor in that epic draw that is still one of my favorite fights of all time in Memphis, and beat a comebacking Trinidad, beat the bags off. As much as, Spence Crawford turned out to be an incredible one-sided performance in a big fight, like Hopkins Trinidad was, like, Mayweather Chico Corrales was, Winky Wright versus Felix Trinidad was just one-way traffic with that jab all night long. And as I always joke, it ruined the greatest hair night in Felix Tito Trinidad history. His wife designed it for him. He had like this blowout. It was fantastic. He ruined it. Winky was so defensively sound, had probably the longest from the tip of your finger to your elbow that I've ever seen. Could not get hit, but was tough too. Like when he had a fight and brawl Jermaine Taylor in that middleweight title fight that should have been a rematch, and Winky should have cashed in, and he made a bad business decision. And Dan Rafael will never let him forget that. Alan W. But he was in the same era, and he did end up fighting Trinidad, but he was at 154 at the time that all of these guys like Oscar, Shane, and Felix and Tito were at 47. I guess Trinidad did move up right around 2000, so they were in the same area, but they didn't meet until middleweight. There you go. There you fricking go, Alan. Thank you. Sydney Frankenstein, thanks for coming in here, brother. Is there any fighter that is openly not a Trump supporter? It's a great point, right? Remember that the only Trump pushback we've ever seen at a UFC event seemingly was Bill Burr when his wife was like, I ain't no Trump guy. And I don't think we've ever seen Bill Burr again. See, the thing is, for me, I just always want to say it. Like, am I a Trump guy? No, but I am a Republican for whatever's that is worth. But I don't care if you're a Trump guy. Like, my parents are Trump guys. Like you can vote for who you want. I just don't feel like this should be the identity of the fight brand and promotion. Like, it's like the same. These are the same people that hated the NFL and NBA for this, wokeness and this, hashtag in the end zone and this, Black Lives Matter on the court, So keep that same energy on the flip side, right? But whatever. People, I don't know, whatever. Live your life. Do what you want. Thank you. This is great. But we're going to turn it down now, okay? We're going to turn it down. Winky Wright, underrated. One of the best defensive fighters, especially a guy that could mix it up. Bill Burr is a national treasure. Very funny man, Bill Burr. All right, people. Thank you. Thank you a lot, all right? I mean, I think we just did 3 hours. Amazing. Thank you. It's because you care. It's because you support. So it's our hangout. It's our local bar, all right? Tip your waitresses. Thank you for being here. Reminder, 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, Thursday, on the BCX. We're going to go inside the box. Rafe Bugs and myself. We're talking Big George. We're talking Sebastian Fundora. We're looking ahead to the weekend. We're breaking down mythical matchups, and we're going to be ridiculous. Thank you. Also, check out my Brandon Moreno interview that's going to happen in a few minutes. Also, check out my Edgar Berlenga, Duran Boots Ennis interviews on the BCX if you care. So far, nobody cares, but we'll see what happens. I never know. You just throw things at the wall. We'll see what sticks, okay? Shout out to Reggie J, my co-host. Thank you so much to everybody for supporting. Shout out to my Air Tiffany CBS Sports Bowling Dad Jordan fake shoes. Can't wait to wear them to MK. And also, prioritize mental health. You deserve to be happy. The people in your life deserve to have the best version of you, your wife, your mom, your son and daughter, your best friends. Find a support system. They're out there. And if no one cares, BC cares. Shoot me a DM. Let's get through this, all right? One day, one foot after another, one step. We can do this. One love, all right? We're going to close with Alan W. because he's such a great supporter of the show. You liking that Mortal Kombat Fortnite theme? So far, yeah. So far, I'm okay with it. I got back from being gone the weekend and tuned in last night. Had a big victory royale at 11 p.m. last night on unranked 0 build. I'm telling you, Alan, unranked is hot right now. You know what I mean? You don't have to go to ranked to find competition. You can find it in unranked. By the way, Alan, you were right. I was way off of my ranking. I'm like 150, 174, 157, not 300 because it did reset the season. I definitely play too much. I do need a break. But if you ain't hanging out at Crime City right now, Alan, who are you? Right? That's what it's all about. Thank you to the great Alan W. Thank you to Lord of the Pies. Thank you to Sandine. All the great people that we do it here. Luke Nocita. I'm BC, and I approve this chat. We're going to talk next time about Kings of Tupelo. Did you watch that on Netflix? I was late to the party. Holy crap. All right. But that's it. We close, of course, with the most incredible intro in the history of podcasts. Shout out to Anthony Weller on the guitar from Head Change, the Nebraska Jam Band. I said, hey, Weller, give me the intersection between Dickie Betts's Blue Sky and Jerry Garcia's Franklin's Tower. This is what that intersection sounds like. Take care. We out of here.